Part 88. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 905. Xiaobo, follow the boss from now on. You have to work hard, but don't be stupid. In front of the community, Li Bo's mother pulled Li Bo and said this repeatedly. Li Bo nodded repeatedly with red eyes. This made Su Tong look a little embarrassed. After all, Li Bo seemed to have his own reasons for being on the bounty list. He stepped forward and put his hands on Li Bo's shoulders, and once again assured Li Bo's mother that he would take good care of him in the future. All right. At this moment, Chang walked out of the community with carefree steps and nodded towards Su Tong without leaving a trace. Ever since he entered the community last night, Su Tong noticed that something was not right in the community, so he asked Chang Wuhan to clean it up. This kind of trivial matter was very familiar to Chang Wuhan. After all, he had served the sharks before. He often did this kind of thing. Within 2 hours, several people were missing from the community without warning. Chang Wugu also let 2 people go and asked them to go back and tell Shark that he would guarantee Li Bo's reward in the future. Either the Shark wants the employer to increase the reward, or to remove the reward. Chang Wugu knows the management of sharks very well. If he meets someone like Li Bo, who has low bounty and high risk, he will usually take it off the list, unless the employer is willing to spend 10 times more to increase the original bounty amount. Let's go, take care of yourself, and... After Su Tong signaled Li Bo to say goodbye to his mother, the 3 of them got into the car and drove slowly out of the community. Hey, lovers get married after all. The old man in the security booth of the community looked at the back of the car, picked up the teacup and took a sip, sighing endlessly. Then he took out the notebook in the drawer, and as he stroked his pen, a spring of inspiration came to him, and a touching love story was written vividly under the pen of the old man. The 3 of them drove straight to the 5th courtyard. After Su Tong thought twice, he still asked Li Bo to stay in the car and wait for them. It's not that he doesn't trust Li Bo in the last script world, Li Bo persisted until the end and did not return to reality alone. For this reason, Su Tong has promoted him to the core team. Neither Chang Wuji nor Gao Zhou had any complaints about this. After all, if it weren't for Li Bo, Su Tong and the others would probably be in danger. Not letting him in was for fear of uncontrollable risks. After all, he and Chang Wuju were children who grew up under the eyes of Lao A and the others. I believed that Lao would not really kill them. But Li Bo was different. If something unexpected happened, this guy would be used as a tool to scare the monkeys. Then Su Tong and Chang Wuhan walked into the hospital. But the strange thing is that there are familiar faces in the hospital, but they seem to have had their memories of the 2 people wiped away, and they have no impression of them at all. The 2 of them ran straight to the critical care area at the back of the hospital. But to their disappointment, the dilapidated old building still stood there. The cracked walls, broken windows, and door full of cobwebs seemed to tell that this was a dangerous building that had been abandoned for a long time. Are they still unwilling to see us? Chang Wuhan walked to the front of the building and looked at the empty corridor unwillingly, feeling suddenly abandoned in his heart. This is his home. No matter where he goes, he always has to go home in the end. But now he is clearly standing at the door of his home, but he finds that his home is still there, but his family is gone. It's like you have worked hard outside for more than 10 years, and when you return home, you find that your hometown has changed drastically. There are no familiar faces on the familiar streets. Even your old house was demolished and bulldozed a few years ago. You look around and realize that you are homeless. Chang Wuju reluctantly wanted to walk in, but Su Tong held his arm with a hand. Forget it, they don't want to see us, just because it's not the time. When the time comes, they will naturally come out on their own. Su Tong frowned, thinking of the crazy words of the old magician. These crazy words that he had scorned since he was a child suddenly became true one day, and even Su Tong could not help but feel a sense of absurdity in his heart. He raised his head and looked at the room where Old A and the others were and shouted, "Old guy, we are leaving and we don't know if we can come back. If you have any treasures or anything to say, if you don't say it today, you won't have the chance in the future. Got it?" Su Tong shouted, and his voice echoed in the empty corridor. After a while, after confirming that no one responded, Su Tong looked back at Chang Wugu. "Let's go." "Can." Chang Wenzi was unwilling to give in, but looking at the dangerous building in front of him that looked like ruins, he gritted his teeth and stamped his feet like an angry child. "I'm leaving, I won't come back." After that, he walked out without looking back. Seeing this, Su Tong looked toward the window above his head, grinned, and walked out with a relaxed expression. After the two of them left the hospital, the sun shone on the dilapidated building in the backyard. After all, no sound came from the empty corridor. The next journey is much simpler. The three of them took a plane and headed straight to Xiangzi. While flying to Xiangzi, Su Tong also took advantage of this gap to call out the props book and examine the props harvested this time one by one. The Calamity of Blood Resentment. Active Skill 1, Blood Curse. When you injure an enemy, you can use the enemy's blood as a primer, consuming 800 script points to activate the skill. After activation, 30% of the opponent's overall constitution will be deducted and blessed on your body. 40% of the damage you take will be passed on to the other party. Duration, 1 minute. Cooling time, 48 hours. Note, use blood as a guide, the stars will change, and you will use the strengths of others to give back to others. This prop card has only one skill, but its effect is extremely abnormal. It not only takes away 30% of the opponent's power, but also transfers 40% of the damage to the enemy. The most important thing is that after Su Tong repeatedly confirmed, this prop card did not mention any negative effects. Once used properly, this prop card is enough to turn the tide against the strong at a critical moment. Although the duration is relatively short, if it is paired with your own time stamp, the time can theoretically be extended to 2 minutes. You know, when experts compete with each other, many things can be decided in 2 minutes. Then he looked at another prop card. Dream Walk. Passive Skill 1, Full of Energy. The holder of the prop card is always in a full mental state. Passive Skill 2, Can't Dream at Night. Item card holders will no longer be able to dream. Active Skill 3, Nightmare Walker. It consumes 3000 script points. After activation, you can transform into a Nightmare Walker, able to enter other people's dreams at will and distort the other person's dreams to a certain extent. Duration, 4 hours. Note, don't try too hard, you can have everything in your dreams. Seeing the entry of this prop card, Su Tong was not sure what the purpose of this prop card was. Well, when we get to Western Hunan, we should find an opportunity to try it out. After reading these two prop cards, Su Tong looked at the title again. Looking at his title that almost occupied a whole page of the prop book, Su Tong covered his forehead in pain. Title cards cannot be traded or discarded. It seems that I am going to fuse a wave of title cards and organize my prop book. Battlefield Veterans. After activating this title, when fighting against players, the cooldown time of all skills will be reduced by 35%, and the skills released will have a 10% chance of refreshing the cooldown. Weak Ribs. Regarding this title, Su Tong only gave these two words to evaluate it, and he had already classified it into the scope of synthetic materials. Evil God Terminator. After activating the title, your damage ability to gods increases by 30%. The god, clone, killed by you will forcibly lose part of its godhood. Title Skill 1, Dragon Slaying. The same amount of script points is consumed. After activation, the next attack will have a dragon slaying effect, which can cause great damage to the gods. Additional damage equals consumed script points. Cooling time, 48 hours. Side effects, After activating Dragon Slaying, 1/3 of your luck will be evaporated. This title is a bit interesting. Thinking of his future opponents, not only players, but also those high-ranking gods, Su Tong couldn't help but have a cold light in his eyes. Compared with these two titles, Su Tong couldn't help but laugh when he looked at the next title card. This title card is not so much a title card as it is space purely used to disgust myself. Hades Blacklist. Those who hold this title will be on the blacklist of Hades and become a person despised by many ghosts and gods. Note, you must be careful and stay alive, otherwise a punishment more terrifying than death awaits you. Come on, it can be considered a gain. Su Tong looked at this title and thought it would be a good material for a fusion title. After reading all these prop cards and titles, Su Tong turned his attention to the last prop. Dream Key. This item is a reward for the player with the highest points in this alliance. Just hearing the name gives people something to look forward to. After Su Tong looked at the key's entry, his expression gradually calmed down, and his eyes slowly scanned it word by word. Dream Key. There is a rumored special prop. With this prop, you can get a mysterious treasure box in this high-end exhibition area. After the treasure chest is opened, the following rewards will be randomly given. 1. Obtain a unique and exclusive land. 2. Obtain a high-level prop card. 3. Obtain the right to use a leased land area. 4. Obtain an exclusive elf butler. 5. Thank you for your patronage. Looking at the content given in the entry, Su Tong fell into deep thought for a moment. It seemed that this was a blind box of luck, but he was not worse than anyone in terms of luck. When he arrived in Xiangzi, he might as well give it a try. If he could get a piece of the land in the high-end exhibition area, even if it is just the right to lease the land, is a great good thing for yourself. Just as Su Tong was deep in thought, Chang Wuja suddenly said, "The people from Shark sent me news that the information about our 7 sects has been released." Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 906. Shark, one of the 6 groups, is a team that specializes in killer business and buying and selling information. Chang Wuhen had been working as a hired killer under Shark before, and he had some connections with Shark. So when Chang Wuhen's portrait appeared in Kimon's intelligence, someone here sent the message to Chang Wuhen. Oh, of course I just mentioned it. If Chang Wuhen wants to know the specific information sold, he can only pay to read it. It must be someone from the Ridge group who did it. Gao Zhou scolded each other in the team for being unreasonable. Actually, this is also a good thing. The manager from the Sharks asked me if I could meet with them. He probably wanted to get us into the group. The Ling group sold the information on Su Tong and others at a good price. I believe that many people are already actively looking for their Kimon contact information. I'm afraid that it won't be long before someone comes to negotiate with Su Tong. Chang Wuge seemed to already know what might happen in the next few days, and reminded Su Tong to prepare him mentally. Hearing what Chang Wuhen said, Gu Zibai couldn't help but question, "It's not so exaggerated, right? The 6th Regiment occupies so many resources, do they lack people like us? Hey, if it's just targeting our team, of course it won't be, but he's not targeting a team, but most of the players." Chang Wuju held his arms in his arms and tore apart the dark scene of the 6th Regiment for everyone to see in the team channel. In fact, each of the 6 major teams is constantly absorbing other teams. Inhale a large number of outstanding teams into your own subgroup, and then go through layers of selection to refine the outstanding members and send them to the front line team. Finally, we recruit powerful members from the front line team into the core team. On the one hand, this can strengthen the strength of one's own team, but also invisibly kill all one's competitors and occupy most of the resources. In other words, a team like Su Tong is the target of their recruitment. They have potential and strength. Once they are recruited into the team, they will inevitably become the target of strong support. However, it will also become an object of management. As far as he knew, the deputy regiments of the 6th Regiment were almost all foils, and only a few of the 2 or 3 teams were cultivated as backup seeds. Moreover, corps members even have great authority over the appointment and dismissal of deputy members. To put it bluntly, if people take a fancy to your team's team skills, they will kick out all the members including you with just one sentence, and then replace the team with their own people. In this way, the team you have worked so hard to build will not only become someone else's wedding dress, but will also be ruthlessly abandoned once your strength does not meet the standards they need. Such a method sounds outrageous. But in reality, isn't this what some companies do? You agree to buy shares, but the board of directors directly forcibly votes to kick you out. You agree to cooperate and make a fortune, but in the end the other party only provides some money, and you become the other party's free partner. Branch. Once a monopoly of some kind is formed, you either don't join or you wait to be attacked. But in reality, it is nothing more than being squeezed out of the market, but among players, that means you will die without a place to die. It's okay. The soldiers will come and cover up the water and earth. What are you afraid of? Su Tong didn't worry about this at all, because he had no intention of joining any team. After all, he had made up his mind to get out of the chessboard. 6 groups were nothing. His future opponents were the gods and demons. If you don't even have this determination, you might as well go to heaven or hell to retire as soon as possible. The plane landed at Guizhou Airport, and Gao Zhou was already waiting for them outside the airport. Then everyone drove straight to Gao Zhou's hometown. Father Gao knew early in the morning that Su Tong was coming, so he asked his daughter-in-law Fengxia to prepare a large table of dishes. Fengxia prepared the meal and went back to her parents' home without waiting for Su Tong and others to come back. It's not that I'm shy, it's mainly because I'm afraid that if I'm here, I'll spoil the delicious food on the table. When everyone got home, Su Tong specially took out the Mei family's century-old wine and gave it to Gao's father, which made Gao Tian smile from ear to ear. During the meal, he did not forget to congratulate Su Tong. He had already heard about what happened to him in Qingcheng Mountain. He did not expect that the great master of the year would now inherit the mantle of the Mei family. Gao Zhou followed Su Tong and returned to his sect. After 3 rounds of drinking, Gao Tianfang was a little drunk and his mouth was a little wandering. Gao Zhou could only send his father back to his room to rest. In fact, Su Tong could see that Gao Tianxin still had a little resentment in his heart. This resentment is not directed at anyone, but at himself. After all, Gao Tianfang was also a talented person of the Gao family when he was young, but he was born at the wrong time and coincided with the Gao family's low point. He was paralyzed in bed for so many years, and his cultivation had long been abandoned. So when I learned that Su Tong had inherited the lineage of my Hua Taoist, I couldn't help but feel that my luck was unfair. But this is all understandable. When he sobers up, this resentment will disappear. Now that the 5 members of the team have finally gathered together, Su Tong also took this opportunity to have a small meeting with everyone. On the one hand is planning for the future. On the other hand, it is a summary of everyone's situation in the last script world. Speaking of planning, Su Tong actually already has a plan in mind, but the focus is still on summarizing everyone. In fact, in the last script world, everyone did not perform well. The reason is that they don't have enough time to settle. It's like a nouveau riche who suddenly has a huge windfall. He wears gold and silver and swaggers around the market. He holds a large amount of cash in his hand and is extremely bullish. But the nouveau riche is the nouveau riche. Compared with those from scholarly families, the connotation of inferiority is more than one level. Just like the Mei family. No mountains or water, the Sichuan and Sichuan people, the old man of the Mei family, they didn't even move a finger. But how big is the background of the Mei family? Every time Su Tong thought he could see clearly, he realized that what he saw was just the tip of the iceberg. Especially when Master Song Lao reminded him this time, he realized how terrifying Taoist Mai Hua was as a person who had jumped out of the chessboard. Sometimes I even think about it, there is no guarantee that I will inherit the Mai Hua lineage. Isn't it a plan arranged by the Mai Hua Taoist a long time ago? Of course, this idea is a bit ridiculous, but when people realize that they are under the control of others, they inevitably become a little suspicious. Closer to home, Su Tong now needs everyone to do some subtraction, integrate the resources at hand, throw out all the unnecessary prop cards, and keep the high-quality prop cards for enhancement and upgrade. As for the division of the script, he would naturally have to figure it out. In a word, everyone must increase their strength to the limit before the next script begins. If they can't do it, they will be punished by themselves. Su Tong made demands on everyone, including himself. Oh, except Li Bo. This guy is just a mascot, not even a certified player. Su Tong doesn't know what kind of route is suitable for Li Bo, so he simply plans to give him a script score and let this guy play freely. After all, the fat man's luck is never too bad. After everyone finished the meeting, they went back to the room to rest. When Feng Xia came back early the next morning, the group had already made an excuse to go to the county town. After all, time is very tight. They have to improve their strength in all aspects before entering the script world in the next round. There are many inconveniences in staying at home, so we simply found a remote location in the county town and entered the script museum together, preparing to spend all the rest of the time in the exhibition. But before entering the exhibition, I still have an account to settle with Mr. Tai. Ding! The door of the script studio was pushed open. When Su Tong led people into the script studio, he took a look and found that Mr. Tai was already sitting on a chair drinking coffee, as if waiting for him. You guys have a meeting first. Su Tong signaled Gao Zhou and others to have a meeting first, and then walked to sit on the sofa next to Mr. Tai. After looking around, he asked, "Where is Aimee? She is still in charge of the script." Su Tong couldn't help but feel a little disappointed when he learned that Aimee was not here. Mr. Tai took a sip of the coffee in his hand, and after snapping his fingers, a cup also appeared on the table. "Try it, it's good stuff." Su Tong took one look and refused. "No, I don't have the habit of drinking this stuff." Mr. Tai could only say regretfully, "That's a pity." Then he took out a box and handed it to Su Tong. "We agreed that the more you kill, the greater the reward." "I will never break my promise," Mr. Tai said, pushing the box to Su Tong. "We had some misunderstandings before, but I hope we can still be friends in the future. I carefully selected this thing. I believe you will like it." Mr. Tai seemed to be particularly talkative today, which made Su Tong feel uncomfortable. I wanted to pick up the box and leave, but Su Tong had one more thing he wanted to confirm with Mr. Tai. After thinking for a moment, Su Tong opened the box first. What was in the box surprised Su Tong. A green jade pendant was lying quietly in the box, and the moment the jade pendant appeared in front of him, great agitation came from his prop book. It is source that is trembling with excitement. Obviously, this thing is part of the source. The prop card I hoped to get at the beginning was precisely because of this collection, so I give this prop card to you today in the hope that you can see my sincerity. Mr. Tai opened his white eyelashes and stared at Su Tong's face, "But I hope you can do me one more favor." Hearing this, Su Tong casually closed the box and threw it directly into his prop book. "You say it first." "It's simple, I want to invest in it." "Buy shares." Su Tong was stunned for a second, but soon he realized what Mr. Tai was referring to. After all, wasn't the fantasy Rubik's Cube his collection? He had used the enlightenment pill to defeat big customers at the exhibition before, so he could hide it from others. Naturally, I can't hide it from Mr. Tai. Now that the other party is proposing to buy shares, it is obvious that he already knows his future plans. "Don't worry, I won't let you suffer. I only account for 40%. I will give you support, but others can't get it. Mr. Tai took out a medicine bottle from his pocket and handed it to Su Tong with a smile. Su Tong took it and opened the medicine bottle, and a black pill fell out from it. The pill looked ordinary. With his mastery of elixir, he could tell at a glance that this thing was ordinary, and even the elixir didn't even bother to analyze the medicinal materials inside. But Su Tong knew that Mr. Tai would not make uncertain preparations, so there must be something wrong with the elixir, so after throwing the elixir into the prop book, Su Tong looked at the entry and suddenly looked weird. Recreation pill. After consumption, the wound can be quickly healed and the wound will continue to be healed within 15 seconds. A very low-level elixir, just as described in the entry. It seems that if this thing is thrown into an ordinary exhibition, no one will buy it. Faced with Su Tong's confusion, Mr. Tai was not anxious at all. He drank the coffee in his hand and said unhurriedly, I have had that Rubik's Cube in my hand for many years. I know some things better than you more, you can try it. After hearing Mr. Tai's words, Su Tong called out the fantasy Rubik's Cube in his hand. Seeing the former treasure appearing in Su Tong's hands, Mr. Tai's face was inevitably a little strange. Su Tong threw the elixir into the fantasy Rubik's Cube, but the prompt he got surprised him. Do you want to spend 0.5 script points to strengthen the item to level 1? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 907. 0.5 script points. Su Tong was really surprised. He thought that the enlightenment pill was already at its lowest level. And this elixir only costs 0.5. The amount of strengthening the Rubik's Cube is calculated based on geometric multiplication. The smaller the principle of the first level of strengthening, the smaller the cost of subsequent strengthening. If calculated by 0.5, it only takes 128 script points to strengthen this elixir to add 9. This cost price is more terrifying than the enlightenment pill. If you don't consider the risk of failure to strengthen later, you can even strengthen this elixir to an incredible level. If you sell such an elixir yourself, you will earn 10 or even 20 times the profit if you resell it. The most important thing is that this thing is not the enlightenment pill. I am willing to reach an agreement with Mochizuki Epiphyllum precisely because the market for the enlightenment pill is very small. Once it is full, there will be no profit for a long time. But this thing is a healing medicine, and the demand far exceeds that of the enlightenment pill. It is almost a hole that cannot be filled. Don't be surprised. I have had the Rubik's Cube in my hands for a long time. I have researched far more things than you know. This elixir is just a little sweetness. I have more good things. Mr. Tai was very pleased with the shock on Su Tong's face, which showed that he was fully aware of the great benefits that this elixir could bring. Su Tong looked at the elixir and fell into deep thought for a moment. He asked after a moment, you don't seem to be such a kind person. With 30% profit, I'm afraid you won't be able to eat enough. Ha 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 ha. Hearing Su Tong's words, Mr. Tai burst out laughing. I like you. Chatting with you is effortless at all. Yes, how could 30% of the profits satisfy his appetite, but if it exceeded 30% of the profits, Su Tong would obviously not agree to cooperate with him. After all, the Rubik's Cube is now in his hands, and he no longer has the ability or power to make things difficult for him. Su Tong was annoyed and Su Tong went directly to another script studio. The loss to him was beyond imagination. I'll tell you the truth, the 6th Regiment and the 2 gods, they are able to become bigger and stronger because they have the support of the script house, or in other words, they have the support of the gods. Since I stumbled on you last time, after that, the superiors became more and more dissatisfied with me. I need a gun, and you need a strong support. Mr. Tai's eyes were blazing. When he came back from the hell, he really thought about taking revenge on Su Tong. But soon he found that his situation was more dangerous, and the superiors had deep opinions on him. Every move he makes next becomes the decisive key. Just like the script world this time, Su Tong's outstanding performance, although a bit out of line, was still satisfactory in the end. So this strengthened his willingness to draw Su Tong for further cooperation. There are 34 certified players in this script studio, including Momin, one of the 6 groups. But I hope to cooperate with you, not only because of the fantasy Rubik's Cube in your hand, but also because you have me in you. Desired potential. Mr. Tai's words were very straightforward. Su Tong recalled Mr. Tai's expression word by word in his mind to make sure that this guy was not lying. On the surface at least, he could find no trace of pretense. But the more this happens, the more careful Su Tong has to be. So he thought for a moment and asked, "Do you know about Ruturo?" "Yes, I know better." Mr. Tai took a sip of coffee and continued. "You don't need to worry, because the gods are not as harmonious as in the fairy tales. For example, Lan Ke in the 8 Immortals was originally a boy, but he was made into a girl by others. He was almost beaten because of love. Falling into the godhead, this is why he was born as a boy before the Manchu and Qing dynasties, but after the Manchu and Qing dynasties, his image changed and became a girl. As the director of Yufang Script Museum, Mr. Tai knows very well how dark the gossip behind those mythical stories is. So this time around Ritualo, although Su Tong violated the rules, his superiors were happy to see the results. After hearing what Mr. Tai said, Su Tong was relieved. He held out 2 fingers, "This is the number, and as the major shareholder, I have the decisive power. You can't interfere with my ideas. As the saying goes, a lion pays back money when he opens his mouth." Su Tong believed that Mr. Tai never thought that he could promise him 30% of the profit from the beginning. 20.5%, "I'll give you one more thing. You got the dream key. I'll give this thing to you and count it as my shareholding. In addition, I won't interfere in your decision. I'll give a May to help you manage your income." Mr. Tai also threw in his chips. A bottle of rainbow-colored Lucky Potion is more effective than the Lucky Potion Su Tong bought before. As for a May, to be honest, Mr. Tai would have kicked her out even without Su Tong. This girl was completely out of his control and even sold him a Lucky Potion that was not originally at Su Tong Quan level in advance. Not to mention that she secretly made trouble and arranged conveniences for Su Tong. Even if she left no trace, how many people could she hide these things from? So sending a May out was a matter of course. Make a deal. Su Tong did not bargain any more this time. In fact, even if Mr. Tai insisted on 30% of the profit, Su Tong would not bargain again if it was against a May. After all, the importance of a May is far beyond the mere 10% profit. After the two reached a verbal agreement, Su Tong put the bottle of Rainbow Lucky Potion in his arms and strode into the exhibition. After he arrived at the exhibition, Chang Wogu called Su Tong on the channel, "People from Momin want to meet with us, I will help you push it, but it is estimated that other people will come to visit soon. Don't be so anxious. Next time they contact you through Shark, you can contact them on my behalf and see what conditions they propose." Su Tong didn't want to expose the 7 sects to the sight of the 6th group so quickly, especially since the magic cube was so effective. With the elixir provided by Mr. Shangtai, Su Tong could guarantee that as long as the elixir was on the market, it would be enough to there was a shocking wave in the exhibition area. I believe that the first one to bear the brunt is the drug dealer industry controlled by the 6th Regiment. When the time comes, they will definitely try their best to find the owner of the industry. Facing a behemoth of the level of the 6th Regiment, even if you have the fantasy Rubik's Cube, you still have to be cautious and make no mistakes, otherwise the 7 gates will definitely be annihilated. Therefore, asking Chang Wuhan to contact these people and discuss conditions is completely a delaying tactic. When they truly establish a foothold and officially become a behemoth like the 6th Regiment, even if the 7 sects are exposed, they won't have to worry about them attacking them. After giving Chang Wugu's instructions, Su Tong went directly into the high-end exhibition area. "Nice to meet your master," the guiding elf appeared next to Su Tong almost simultaneously when Su Tong entered the high-end exhibition area. "Last time you said that besides the moon-watching epiphyllum, there is another place suitable for retreat, right? Mochizuki epiphyllum himself can't go now. The last incident of enlightenment pill has already made Mochizuki epiphyllum notice him. Although he had the disguise given by the exhibition, and he had been confirmed by Ame, even the leader of the gunslingers did not have the authority to explore his true identity. But the huge plant under the moon-watching epiphyllum made Su Tong feel very uncomfortable. The other party could not detect his identity, but it did not rule out that the other party could remember him in some way. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, Su Tong felt that he should not go there unless necessary in the future. The guiding elf nodded. "Yes, you are talking about Longxia Cave. The advantages are that it is cheap, the environment is beautiful, and no one will disturb you in retreat. The disadvantage is that the place is relatively remote, and there is no retreat auxiliary function. Take me there." What Su Tong needed now was that no one would disturb him. He nodded slightly and let the guide spirit take him there. Just as the guide elf said, the Dragonbeard Cave is indeed a bit far away. On the way, the guide elf also thoughtfully talked about many public news in the high-end exhibition area recently. For example, not long ago, there was a big commotion at the casino. Someone triggered your curse while gambling on the prop book. As a result, most of the casino was dead and injured in an instant. Only a dozen people in the casino escaped at that time, and most of them were turned into monsters by the curse. Finally, the exhibition's protection mechanism was activated and all these monsters were cleared out before the exhibition returned to normal. After this incident, the premium exhibition area casino was temporarily closed. Hearing the news, Su Tong couldn't help being surprised and thought, "It's such an unfortunate coincidence, but I still plan to go in and make a fortune." Yesterday, the Shark Mercenary Group issued a new wanted order to hunt down a man named Zhang Zhengao. The bounty has been increased to 400,000 script points. Zhang Zhengao. Su Tong paused when he heard this. This man's name was not unfamiliar to him. Back in Huerzhuang, the 5 great immortals asked him to hunt down a man named Zhang Zhengao. Unexpectedly, before he had time to hunt down this person, this guy's name was hung on the bounty list. This matter seems to be something that Chang Wuxia can follow up on. If it goes well, he can find an opportunity to help the 5 immortals to kill this beast, which can also be regarded as repaying the cause and effect between himself and the Northeast Immortal family. Afterwards, the fetching spirit said many things, and Su Tong listened as if he were listening to the evening news. Until I arrived at Longxia Cave, I saw that the so-called Longxia Cave was located in a forest. It was not a cave as he imagined, but a cave dwelling. Su Tong asked about the price, and it turned out to be very cheap. An ordinary cave dwelling costs 30 points a day. Intermediate cave dwellings have 60 script points. The most advanced cave dwelling not only comes with luxurious residential furniture, but also has an independent manor, a mountain guard array, etc., and the price is only 100 script points. You must know that the price of Mochizuki epiphyllum is not enough for an hour in a yellow level training room. After Su Tong directly decided on the highest level cave dwelling, he got a spiritual tablet to enter the cave dwelling. Under the guidance of the guiding spirit, he easily found a huge cave dwelling on the back of the mountain. I wonder if the guide elf is so familiar with this place and has some business dealings with him. Su Tong didn't think about this problem in detail. After entering the cave, he signaled for the elves to leave. He walked around leisurely in a circle and repeatedly confirmed with the Minjian Kimin and Chen Mutong that there was nothing wrong. Finally, I felt relieved. After confirming that there was no problem, Su Tong couldn't wait to call out the prop book and took out the box that Mr. Tai gave him. When the box was opened, the Jasper jade pendant appeared in front of him, and Yun's restlessness became more and more obvious at this moment. After hesitating for a moment, Su Tong simply ignored the entry on the jade pendant and directly fused it with the source. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 908. When the jade pendant and the prop cards of Yuan Liang merged with each other, the eyes were suddenly filled with thousands of colors and auspicious light. What do you want to ask about? Well, the effect of the rotating lights in the dance hall is almost the same. It's a pity that there is no music, and there are no hot girls. You collect mission items, and the prop card source unlocks a new ability. Following the prompt, Su Tong quickly took a look and saw that there was indeed a new ability carrier on the entry for source. What kind of ability is this? Su Tong's eyes widened and he carefully examined the entry for this new ability. Carrier. Passive Skill 1, Carrier. Those who carry it and move forward are always in trouble, commanding the heaven and earth. Active Skill 1, Intercepting Luck. Consuming 1/3 of your own script points and 1/10 of your lifespan, you can forcibly cut off the target's luck and devour it. Cooling time, none. Active Skill 2, Hidden Luck. Spend 500 script points to cover up, modify and disguise your own luck. Duration, 28 days. Cooling time, none. Note, those who serve heaven go with heaven, and those who carry heaven go against heaven. Su Tong looked at this new skill and was a little confused for a moment. He can still understand the two active skills, but what the hell are the passive skills? The terms given are so vague. I'm afraid it's because the prop booklet can't be translated by itself, so you're just trying to fool me. Then he turned his attention to the other two active skills. Active Skill 2, Hidden Luck. This skill is easy to understand. You can change your own luck to confuse the opponent. So it's not difficult to understand. But there are some things that need to be considered about the skill Intercepting Luck. It is actually able to forcefully devour the opponent's luck, but the information given in the entry is too little. According to my own understanding, this luck interception may not be as powerful as imagined. At least for a person like Zhang Haisheng, it is not easy for him to directly swallow up the opponent's luck. And even if it consumes script points, why should it consume 1/10 of the lifespan? 1/10 of lifespan. With his own strength, land gods can live for at least 300 years, and 1/10 of their lifespan is a considerable amount of time. These doubts arose until Su Tong looked at the line of notes below. Su Tong's eyelids twitched and he thought about it. The so-called people who serve heaven and follow heaven mean to follow the way of heaven and follow the time of heaven. This is the way to live a long life. But the carrier, going against the will of heaven, has another meaning. There's no need to say it's complicated, just give it a simple meaning. Suppose Zhang San is an ordinary office worker, working 9 to 5, working hard, earning a monthly salary of 3,000, and having no house or car. Then you dreamed about the gods at night. The gods said that in the next 2 days, you will have great luck and all your wishes will come true, but at the cost of 2 years of your life. What is the first thing you do when you wake up? Definitely buy a lottery ticket. Changing destiny is so simple. 2 years of life is nothing. The carrier must go against the will and change the destiny. So this sentence, combined with the skill of luck interception, is easy to understand. Take your own life, swallow up other people's luck, and then go against the will. To put it bluntly, I will risk my life with you. Either I change my fate against fate, or I die. Su Tong murmured in his heart, good guy, what a revenge this is. After looking at the skills, Su Tong suddenly noticed that the experience value of Minji and Kimin had increased by 1 point. Huh. Seeing this, Su Tong was startled and hurriedly began to look through the prop book for experience value records about the Minji and Kimin. Ever since he upgraded the Minji and Kimin to LV4, he couldn't continue to upgrade. Although he only needed 5 experience points, he couldn't gain experience no matter what he did. But now the experience value has actually increased by 1 point. This couldn't help but make Su Tong startled. After rummaging through the records, he finally found the origin of this experience value. It turned out that he was the one who stopped Rotoro from sacrificing the world with cave blood. Ding! You stopped Rotoro's blood sacrifice plan, and the life Ikemen experience value add 1. Seeing the reminder record in the prop book, Su Tong suddenly realized, so this is it. Then Su Tong laughed. He stared at the source prop card and said with a smile, the fateful Ikemen and the interception luck. The former goes against the will to change one's destiny, and the latter goes against the heaven. I think you are sincere and can't get along with God. No wonder you fell into my hands, you are all a fallen person from the end of the world. After speaking, Su Tong put away the prop book. Then he took out a small notebook and put it on the table. Based on his own situation, he started to make a list of what he had to do next and complete it one by one. Just as Su Tong said in the previous meeting with everyone, he should integrate his own strength, eliminate redundant prop cards, and then make targeted supplements to improve himself. Although Dale left in despair, this guy still left a bag of divine gold diamonds. This thing can be eaten by the second soul to enhance the strength of the little fat man of the second soul. It can also be used by Yun Xiang to speed up the process. The growth of cloud salamanders. Half of Rotoro's body is still in his own Great Sun Ruyi furnace, and he can be refined into elixirs. You need to ask the elixir's opinion on this matter to see how you can refine the elixir that is most suitable for you. In addition to the Dream Key and the Rainbow Lucky Potion, although I have reached an intention to cooperate with Mr. Tai, there is a premise here, that is, I must use the Dream Key to get a piece of land in the exhibition area. Otherwise, I have to wait for my right level. After being promoted to LV4. There is also Amarda. Last time in the script world, I wanted him to find an opportunity to seize the body, but this coward did not make any move. Amota can no longer stay on his body, otherwise it will still have a great impact on him. If he wants to further strengthen his strength, he must practice the Pure Yang Sword Code to the 9th level. This matter is quite troublesome, but it is not difficult to solve. This is an exhibition area. As long as you are willing to spend money, you can buy anything. Why not buy a body by yourself? Su Tong wrote down his thoughts and needs in his notebook one by one. After taking a look, I decided to start with the simplest place. I saw him closing his eyes, and his soul escaped into the entrance of the hall. Squeak. Yunxian, who was sitting on the ferry stove, saw Su Tong and jumped into Su Tong's arms. Meet the headmaster. Da Ya and others also gathered around. Su Tong took out a few divine gold diamonds and divided them among them, one for each of them. Of course, he did not forget the 5 black mezons. After all, they also had merit. The remaining half was given to the little guy Yun Xiang, and the other half was reserved for the little fat man. This is a good thing, but it was transformed by the thoughts of the gods. I don't know how the Holy See refined this thing. However, as a world-class religion, the Holy See has dominated the West for so many years. Even if the monarch changes, it cannot shake the status of the divine right of kings. This shows that the foundation is huge, and it is probably worse than the other 3 religions. I still have to find an opportunity in the future to get more good things from the Holy See. Su Tong thought secretly. Then he tried to wake up the elixir and asked about how to use Rotoro's half-spirited thoughts. The elixir's answer is simple, just throw it in and refine it. After all, it is a clone of the god. It is a top-notch material in itself and does not require the addition of any other pharmaceutical aids. Practice directly, Su Tong hesitated for a moment. Yes, of course you can practice it directly. He, that's what your immortal furnace is for. Danjing said to Su Tong with a smile. The origin of this fairy furnace is extraordinary. Fairy Bixia asked her to pick a pottery jar, but most of them were dead ends. With the help of the double-eyed man, she accidentally picked a pottery jar and got the stove, but she didn't. I don't know the origin of this stove. Seeing Danjing talking about this, he couldn't help but ask, do you know the origin of this stove? Have no idea. The elixir shook his head, but quickly added, but this thing should be related to the Queen Mother of the West. Except for her who likes to use the gods to make elixirs, there are really not many people who like to use the gods directly as elixirs to make elixirs. Well, since the elixir said so, Su Tong had nothing to be vague about. He directly changed out the Great Sun Ruyi furnace, and with a thought, he threw out part of Rotoro's identity and threw it directly into the immortal furnace. At the same time activate the Supreme Alchemy Sutra and the Blessing of Heaven. Immediately, the blood energy in the immortal furnace rose, and soon Rotoro's angry roar came out. Although he couldn't understand it, it was very affectionate. At the same time, in front of the gate of the blood river in the underworld, a pair of angry eyes suddenly opened, with a roaring sound, and they cursed loudly. For a moment, the surrounding mountains collapsed, ghosts cried, gods howled, the sea of blood rolled in the sky, and countless sure the men and women of the tribe didn't know what happened, but they were crushed into pieces by the divine power generated by this anger. It really pisses me off. Rotoro's roar rippled above the sea of blood. At this time, a decree stamped with the great seal of the underworld descended from the air and unfolded in front of Ruchulo, according to the order of the Emperor Bian and the great Emperor Fengdu. Ruchulo, the great god of gate control in the sea of blood, hurried to the underworld to listen to the instructions. After hearing the decree, Rotoro was stunned for a moment, and then said angrily, I am the general of Blood River, and I am not subject to the control of Hades. But as soon as he said these words, a cold and stern scolding sound suddenly came from the decree in front of him, get over here. There were only 3 words, but it made Rotoro's whole body burst with flesh and blood. An invisible force of power was like a mountain bearing down on him. The huge pressure hit him hard. Rotoro didn't even have time to hum. His vision went dark. Waiting for his reply. When the god passed by, the person had already knelt down in front of the Hall of Hades. When he looked up, he saw Du Ziren, the 5 Directions Ghost Emperor, sitting in the auditorium, staring at him with a smile. Happy Mid-Autumn Festival to everyone // /. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 909. The elixir has reached the 9th level, and I am born with Deo marks. I am so satisfied and comfortable. Keep practicing, keep practicing. The obsession with the elixir in his mind became stronger and stronger, urging Su Tong to continue refining the elixir. However, Su Tong completely ignored this guy's request. He looked at the pearl-like pills in the pill box and counted them, no more, no less, 8 pills in total. He casually picked up one in the palm of his hand and saw that the elixir pill was as crystal clear as jade, but it was not round. It looked like a fetus the size of a thumb. The elixir pill turned out to be a shrunken fetus. Just throw it into the prop book. The prop book also gave the answer Su Tong wanted. Blood sea breaking thought pill. Those who consume it can withstand the test of desire, and after success, their thoughts will be strengthened. Note, this elixir has risks. Those who fail will suffer severe damage to their Taoist heart and vitality. Please take it with caution. In addition, it will be ineffective if taken multiple times. Looking at the entry for this elixir, Su Tong pondered for a while. The Shura lineage is naturally warlike, and their blood is filthy, full of great human desires. greed, ignorance, anger, love, lust, love, and hatred. Take a step further to understand your desires, take a step back and sink into the sea of blood. Narutoro is the master of the blood river gate control, and is naturally the best among them. Only by being firm and pure can he maintain his true nature in a filthy place like the blood sea. Therefore, its clone was used to refine the elixir, which is the blood sea breaking thought elixir. After thinking for a moment, Su Tong first put away the elixir in a bottle. He had too many thoughts now and wanted to wait until he sorted out the prop book and arranged Ameta's affairs before taking the elixir. Then he took out the fantasy Rubik's Cube and threw the reconstruction pill given to him by Mr. Keitai just now, and tried to strengthen it. He wanted to know the effect of this pill after it was strengthened. Everything could not be perfect. As Mr. Tai said, you must verify it yourself. Do you want to spend 0.5 script points to strengthen the item to level 1? Yes. After Su Tong decisively confirmed, the fantasy Rubik's Cube began to rotate, and it was easily strengthened to level 1. Su Tong continued to strengthen, and strengthened the elixir to level 6 in one breath. After a qualitative transformation, he took it out for a look. Reconstruction pill at 6. After consumption, it can greatly restore physical injuries and temporarily obtain the air armor effect. Air armor, armor formed by one's own blood. The stronger the body's blood, the stronger the effect of the air armor. It can resist up to 12% of physical damage. Duration, 30 seconds. Cooling time, 70 minutes. Good thing, just this elixir, it's cheap to buy 600 script points and the cost is only 31 script points. After Su Tong made some calculations in his mind, he instantly twitched his lips. With nearly 20 times the profit, this business was a huge profit. A businessman would dare to trample all human laws for the sake of 100% profit. With 200% profit, it dares to commit any crime. He has increased his profit 20 times. No wonder Mr. Tai wants to cooperate with him. Based on this alone, the profit of 25% is also a huge amount. After thinking for a moment, Su Tong continued to strengthen. He wanted to see where the limit of this pill was. Add 7. Add 8. Add 9. The quality of the elixir has improved again. Su Tong took a look at the entry. In addition to the improved efficacy, the maximum physical damage the air armor can withstand has been increased to 20%, and the duration has been extended to 3 minutes. The cost is calculated at 128 script points. Su Tong estimated that there would be a market for such a pill if it could sell 1,000 script points. He then continued to strengthen, but when the elixir was strengthened to plus 10, crack, a shattering sound sounded. Su Tong took a closer look and found that the elixir had been broken into 2 halves. But it still successfully reached the add 10 level, but there was an additional expiration countdown behind the elixir. Excluding some of the effects of luck, the limit of this elixir is add 10. If you improve your luck, you might be able to make another breakthrough, but it is basically difficult to reach add 12. After all, the foundation of this elixir is so poor. But at this point, Su Tong was already satisfied. Even if it is strengthened to the level of add 6, it is enough to make oneself a lot of money. Su Tong took the elixir in his hand and activated the elixir sealing technique of the Taizhang Alchemy Sutra. After forcibly sealing the elixir, the countdown to its expiration was extended from 1 hour to 7 days. It works well. Su Tong threw the pills into the props book, then glanced through the props book, and his expression became distressed for a moment. There are not many slots left in his prop book, and there is almost no room for most of the miscellaneous items. This is all because I have too many prop cards. Dharma, magic, and various prop cards are piled together. It is not easy to sort them out, not to mention that I also have a bunch of title cards. Take it easy first, you can sort it out at the end. Su Tong put away the book of props, picked up the notebook beside him, crossed out the topic of alchemy, raised his eyes, stood up and walked out of the retreat courtyard. He planned to go and see if he could find a suitable body for Ameta. Open the dream key by the way. Master, I just received news that Yanzioki is publicly challenging the leader of the spear gods in the arena. Do you want to go and take a look? Of course, the ticket price is a bit expensive. As soon as he walked out of the retreat room, the reception spirit immediately flew over and said to Su Tong. Challenge the gunslinger? Yanzioki. When Su Tong heard this, he was startled at first, and then he felt that the name Yanzioki sounded very familiar. He thought about it carefully. It's one of the 3 uniques. 6 regiments, 2 gods, and 8 evils. 3 dus, 5 elders, and 4 directions. The last time I met Deathstroke, one of the 3 unique ones, in the Tianmen of Qingcheng Mountain, Deathstroke's fighting prowess at that time was very terrifying, and this was just because he was in the state of a primordial spirit. If it were in a complete state, the combat power displayed would probably be even more terrifying. Yanzioki and Deathstroke are both top players among players, so their strength is not much different. Since he dares to openly challenge the gunslinger, Su Tong is lying if he says he doesn't want to see it. Boss, there's big news, come to the arena quickly, hurry up, you're late, there are no tickets. Before Su Tong could speak, Gao Zhou had already shouted in the team channel. Quick, go grab the tickets. Gu Zibai was already screaming with excitement. For this martial arts idiot, he absolutely cannot miss this battle. When Su Tong heard the cries of ghosts and wolves in the team, he immediately asked the guiding spirit to take him to the arena. When I walked out of Longxia Cave, I found many people rushing out of the retreat room. Apparently they had gotten the news and rushed towards the arena. At this time, the disadvantages of Longxia Cave appeared. It was too remote. When Su Tong arrived, there was already a sea of people outside the arena, and a large number of players who had received the news were swarming in. Even players who were originally resting in reality crowded into the high-end exhibition area for the first time. Brother, do you want tickets? I have cheap ones here. Someone came over and asked Su Tong in a lowered voice. Su Tong asked, and almost couldn't help but curse, I dare to charge him 38,000 for a ticket. Was the ink on your ticket made separately from the script, or was the paper on the ticket made from prop cards? 38,000, which is almost the same price for a top quality prop card. He immediately shook his head and turned around to leave. At the same time, he shouted in the team channel, Gaozhou, have you bought the ticket? I bought it. 4 seats. The price is 17,000 yuan a ticket. It's so expensive. I came early. I have no tickets now. The scalpers sell 30,000 yuan a ticket. It's doubled. I'll be afraid later. It will continue to rise. Gao Zhou cursed in the team channel. The news this time is so fascinating. Even if everyone knew in their hearts, it was impossible for Yanzioki to directly challenge the gun gods, and it would be the core members of the gun gods who would fight instead. But this is also a good opportunity not to be missed. Ticket prices are naturally rising. The 4 of Su Tong quickly gathered together, and Gao Zhou took out the tickets to enter the arena and distributed them to everyone. After entering, I found the so-called private room according to the location on the ticket. It is said to be a private room, but it is actually a high platform with an extra stool. It is located a little higher and can be seen more clearly. Others have to stand in the auditorium below to squeeze in. This arena is a bit too shabby. After the 4 of them sat down, Chang Wuzi inevitably started to complain. The arena in front of us was indeed pitifully small. It was completely incompatible with the high-end exhibition area. It would even make people feel chilly if placed in a low-level exhibition area. The area under the stage is even smaller, only about the size of a football field. To be honest, even the gladiatorial arena in the Roman countryside in the Middle Ages was many times more luxurious than here. Speaking of which, why haven't I heard of a gladiatorial arena in the high-end exhibition area before? Chang Wogu frowned and said. After saying this, I heard a sneer from the figure sitting on the sidelines. Of course, this arena is newly built. It has just been baked and has not been used for 2 days. New one. Su Tong's brows moved slightly. Could it be that the owner of this arena is Yan Zioki? Who else is he? Otherwise he would dare to risk his face like this and challenge the spear gods. There was a bit of contempt in the other party's words, as if he didn't despise Yan Zioki's actions. In fact, it would be the same for anyone. Yan Zioki publicly challenged the spear gods in this way. On the one hand, he wanted to build his reputation in the arena, and on the other hand, he also took advantage of this opportunity to make a lot of money. After all, you still launch a challenge knowing that you will lose. If you don't make a fortune, I'm sorry for my face. Hearing what the other party said, Su Tong doubted whether the scalpers outside the door were all Yan Zioki's people. Su Tong and his group were obviously not the only ones to curse. Many people who had bought tickets at high prices to get in all yelled at Yan Zioki for being shameless. In fact, everyone knew in their hearts that this incident was most likely related to the gunslingers, otherwise Yan Zioki would not have caused such a big stir. Maybe it's just Pansy Eye buying a fake batch of wine. It's just that no one in the gunslingers dared to scold Yan Zioki. Seeing that the scoldings were getting louder and louder, the door to the arena slowly opened at this moment, and Yan Zioki, dressed in military uniform and holding a long sword in his hand, walked out wearing a smiling mask. Seeing this, everyone gradually slowed down their scolding. Yan Zioki did not bother to explain to the other party, but directly showed a token. Order of the Gun God. A knowledgeable person will immediately recognize the token when they see it. It is the token of the gun gods. It is said that you can ask the gun gods to help you do something. Many people were moved at this moment. The gun god token was a good thing. With the size and strength of the gun god group, I don't know how many people would go crazy with just this token. It is said that the Spear God Regiment only issued 3 of these Spear God orders. Unexpectedly, one actually landed in Yan Zioki's hand. What Yan Zioki said next shocked everyone. Yan Zioki threw the token away and it was smashed into the wall beside him. If the people from the gun gods don't come to get it, whoever beats me will get this token. If no one beats me, I will destroy this token on the spot after 10 rounds. As soon as these words came out, the whole place was in an uproar, and some people even screamed, "This guy is crazy, he is provoking. It's worth it, just say this, I won't lose the money I spent. Dare to use the face of the spear gods as a stepping stone? It's like a heifer standing on its head, with its skin soaring to the sky." After everyone made a noise, Yan Zioki looked at everyone, "Everyone, the token is here. Anyone who is interested can give it a try. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 910. The rules of the arena are simple: fight to the death. But death is not real death, but resurrection in the audience. In addition, the script points consumed for skills released in the arena will be reset. But there is a penalty standard here. Every time you die, 2/10 of your own script points will be deducted, and as the number of deaths increases, the penalty will become greater and greater. The deducted script points will go to the winner. Of course, if 2 people have a grudge, they can also increase this punishment before fighting. At this moment, Yan Zioki stood up with a sword in his hand and said, "Everyone, I am building this arena not just for people to watch and fight for fun, but more for people to compete in skills and hone their own shortcomings. I, Yan Zioki, will be the first one, the challenger, No matter whether he wins or loses, he will do his best. After hearing Yanzioki's words, everyone present gradually became quiet. Isn't this nonsense? Who dares to go up? It doesn't matter the victory or defeat. If you go up, you will offend the spear gods. You are full and full. This is it. Haha, it's really Pansy who buys wine. There is no real product. Everyone was talking about it, and no one wanted to take the risk of offending the spear gods. Many people watched with cold eyes, thinking that if no one would support him later, Yanzioki's business would be ruined here. Yanzioki is still too young. Someone shook his head. Jianghu, it's not about fighting and killing, it's about human nature. Seeing that the situation was getting colder, Yanzioki's face gradually became ugly under the mask. I come. At this time, someone suddenly stood up. Everyone looked back, but no one took him seriously. Some people even ridiculed, I'm afraid this is not a request. As soon as this statement came out, many people ridiculed him. But the figure who stood up did not hesitate and ran straight towards Yanzioki. Gao Zhou asked in a low voice in the team channel, Boss, if Lao Bai goes up like this, he won't make the gunslingers hate us. After all, our information has been sold by the gang of thieves from the Ridge team. Lao Bai's methods it's too conspicuous. It turned out that the person who stood up to challenge Yanzioki was none other than Gu Zibai. Being able to compete with Yanzioki, one of the three uniques, is definitely an opportunity that is rare for Gu Zibai. It doesn't matter. Su Tong knew what Gao Zhou was worried about and waved his hand. The opportunity was right in front of him. There was no reason to be hesitant. As for offending the spear gods, how many things have you offended yourself? Once the matter of the enlightenment pill is revealed, the gun gods will definitely kill them without a place to bury them. But before this matter is revealed, it is not a bad thing to show a little etch. Especially since the information about their seven sects has been exposed, others will only think that they are eager to get ahead and get a good price for themselves. If the gun gods really wanted to pursue them, Su Tong would have his own strategy to deal with it. In short, as long as you don't expose yourself as the initiator of the enlightenment pill, this kind of thing won't have much impact. Of course, it is not ruled out that the spear gods will bear a grudge against them and insist on causing trouble for them, but he is also not a fool. The soldiers will cover up the water and the earth, so what are they afraid of? After Gu Zibai entered the ring, the host quickly stepped forward to explain the rules and gave Gu Zibai a mask. After putting on the mask, the disguise on the body will disappear. This is because the disguise is hazy, which makes it inconvenient to control the details and affects the audience's viewing. The mask is a special item and cannot be damaged in the arena, even if it is real. Is accidentally knocked away, the disguise on the body will take effect again. Gu Zibai put on a mask, and his figure was exposed. He didn't tuck it away. After moving his limbs, he raised his fists and got ready to fight. Still pretending, boring. Everyone in the audience sneered at this, feeling that Gu Zibai was just a supporter prepared by Yanzioki. However, the moment Gu Zibai took action, many people were keenly aware of the murderous aura surging in Gu Zibai's body. Gu Zibai's body was filled with martial arts wool, filling every inch of his skin. The skin on his body showed an extremely healthy wheat color, as if it had been nourished by the essence of the entire earth. The martial arts aura is getting stronger and stronger, spreading out in waves, causing the entire ground to tremble slightly. Kill. Following Gu Zibai's cold shout, his figure was like an arrow out of a bow. In an instant, he rushed in front of Yanzioki, raised his fists together, and let out a tiger's roar. Facing one of the three heroes, Gu Zibai unleashed all his power without reservation. As soon as the fists came, shadows were everywhere, making it impossible to resist. Taking martial arts into Taoism. Such pure players are rare. Facing Gu Zibai's fist, Yanzioki's eyes under the mask showed a hint of excitement. He thought it was a cold start, but he didn't expect it to be a surprise for him. I saw that he did not draw his sword, but just pulled the scabbard. The sword edge seemed to be fast and slow. When he swung it forward, the sword was as light as electricity, so fast that people could not handle it, but it was fast but slow, and the sword was already shaking, lightly smashing all Guzibai's fists into pieces. Tai Chi swordsmanship. Su Tong sat in the audience and saw clearly that he knew Tai Chi swordsmanship himself, and he was somewhat successful, but compared with Yanzioki's swordsmanship, it was not even close to a star. Martial Saint. Tyrant body. Seeing that Yanzioki hadn't drawn his sword yet, Guzibai couldn't help but feel a little angry. After activating his prop skills, the aura on his body surged, and his body was like a brilliant golden man for a moment. A set of punches seemed to come out like a spiritual snake and a giant python, and went straight to Yanzioki Rong's upper, lower, left, right, and all directions. There was also a foot that was close to the ground, directly attacking the vital points of the lower body. It was extremely secretive, which is difficult to detect. Seeing this, Yanzioki raised his eyebrows slightly, raised the scabbard in his hand, turned his waist in a big circle, flashed his body, dodged the punch from the front, deflected the punch under his ribs, raised his foot sharply, and stepped down. Unexpectedly he kicked Guzibai's kick back abruptly. The foot that was pushed back was deflected and stepped directly on the ground. Suddenly, boom, there was an explosion, and a storm visible to the naked eye rolled up flying sand and rocks, crackling all around. Fortunately, there is an invisible barrier around the arena, otherwise many people would be involved in it. Everyone was shocked when they saw the stone hitting the barrier and sparks flying. Have you never heard of such a master? Hey, he seems to be from the 7 sects. 7 gates. Yes, a team has just appeared. I have information here. Do you want 500 scripts? Some people in the audience had already begun to communicate with each other, and soon Guzibai's information was spread everywhere. Su Tong had expected this, so he was not surprised at all. After all, there were too few players like Guzibai, even rarer than giant pandas. The dragon is soaring and the tiger is roaring. I saw Guzibai retracting his fists at this moment. With the blessing of the 2 states of martial saint and tyrant body, a strong blood energy shot straight into the sky and transformed into dragons and tigers surrounding him. Too slow. But at this moment, a cold light appeared in Yanzioki's eyes. The moment he swung the scabbard in his hand, a sword energy wrapped around the scabbard, suddenly rushed upward, turned into a long green rainbow, and penetrated straight down. This is a move called Changhong Guan Yu. Bang, with a muffled sound, Guzibai's body's golden light, which was mixed with martial arts will and domineering body, was suddenly shattered and exploded around him. For a moment, the dragon and tiger screamed and dispersed unwillingly, but the scabbard unexpectedly it was inserted directly into Guzibai's heart. Old Bai Rao already knew the rules, but seeing this scene, Gaozhou and others were still nervous and clenched their fists tightly. Guzibai was stunned for a second, opened his mouth, and then his body disappeared into the ring, leaving only the mask he was wearing before falling onto the ring. When Guzibai came back to his senses, he found that he was sitting in the audience again. He reached out and touched his heart, his face full of disbelief. From the beginning to the end, Yanzioki did not use the skills of prop cards, and did not even unsheath his sword. He also fought with him purely using martial arts, and defeated him with just one move. This made Guzibai have to admire him. At this time, Yanzioki stood on the ring, took out a notebook, quickly wrote a paragraph on it, and handed it to the staff in the arena. The staff then sent the paper to Guzibai's before. Guzibai opened it and took a look, her eyes showing joy. It turned out that what was written on this piece of paper turned out to be many suggestions given to him by Yanzioki. In addition to pointing out his shortcomings, it also pointed out the direction for him to advance. Just based on this piece of paper, Gu Zibai felt that today's trip was worthwhile. Lao Bai, how are you? Why don't you speak? Is it because you are too stimulated? Gu Zibai lived in Gao Zhou's house during this period, and his relationship with Gao Zhou was getting closer and closer, so Gao Zhou suddenly became worried when he saw that he didn't speak. You've made a profit, you've made a profit. If you make a profit this time, you'll know if you go up and try it. Gu Zibai laughed. I carefully put this piece of paper away, and then planned to try according to the content on the paper. Is it so mysterious? Gao Zhou didn't believe it. Just listen to Gu Zibai whisper in the team channel, martial arts practitioners are like pythons and tigers. At the beginning, they use force to make strange moves, and later they change into strong and feminine, and supplemented by skills, it seems to have miraculous effects, but it is not the right way. You should know that with one's strength the 10 wisdoms. Gu Zibai recited this paragraph on the paper to everyone. The meaning of this statement is very simple. It points out that Gu Zibai is too obsessed with boxing and ignores the essence of martial arts practice. It is not the pursuit of moves, but the strength of his own flesh and blood. In addition, the paper also pointed out a direction for Gu Zibai, a way to become a saint in the body. Although I didn't say anything specific, it was enough to point out the direction. Hearing what Gu Zibai said, Su Tong roughly understood, and immediately said to Gao Zhou and Chang Wogu, there are people who are good teachers. This is a good opportunity. Don't be stunned, you two, hurry up. Is this possible? We are not on the same path. Gao Zhou scratched his head and said. In the end, Su Tong kicked him in the butt, if you are asked to do it, do it. If he can't explain why, he will destroy his own sign. After Gao Zhou heard this, he was no longer vague, and immediately stood up and ran to the ring. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 911. Compared with Gu Zibai, Gao Zhou's methods are actually very complicated. Summoning zombies, corpse explosions, spells, and good zombie bodies, the complex operations give people an overwhelming feeling. This somewhat calmed down a lot of resentment among the people in the audience. At least everyone could see that Gao Zhou was serious. However, Yan Zhaoqi did not directly rely on her superior strength to kill Gao Zhou. Instead, after fighting with Gao Zhou for a period of time, she took advantage of Gao Zhou's flaw and killed Gao Zhou with one sword. Then he still wrote a note, pointing out Gao Zhou's weaknesses and pointing out the direction of advancement. Su Tong took the note directly, opened it and read it carefully, and couldn't help but feel a little moved. The note made it very clear that Gao Zhou's strength was not bad, but he was mixed but not good. He was okay when he met people with less strength, but when he met those masters who were really good at fighting, he was basically cannon fodder. There are two directions for advancement given by Yan Zhaoqi. One is to focus on studying poisonous corpses and poisonous insects, and develop the zombie summoning flow to the extreme. Simply put, it is undead tactics. One person can withstand thousands of troops. Although the strength of a single person is not strong enough, he can use poisons, and even some spells, etc., and he is still capable of fighting against top experts. At least he can escape with his life. The other is to give up those miscellaneous routes and purely follow the zombie route. After doing simple things to the extreme, there will naturally be a qualitative transformation. Of these two routes, the former increases width and the latter increases height. The choice is entirely up to Gao Zhou himself, and Su Tong will not interfere. What he was interested in was Yan Zhaoqi, who didn't look like a gladiator at all, but more like a combat teacher who was giving his suggestions to every challenger. And these suggestions are definitely not just words on paper, they are the combat experience accumulated by Yan Zhaoqi after going through many life and death tests. Even Su Tong felt itchy now. Free, what about you? Su Tong motioned to Chang Wuhan to challenge him. Chang Wuhan thought about it and shook his head, no. He himself knew his situation. As a player who purely used the ability of prop cards, Chang Wuhan knew very well that if he wanted to become stronger, he could only spend money on it, so he tried his best to collect enough space prop cards. So there is almost no point in running up on your own except for getting beaten. And he has already thought clearly about his next advancement route, so he doesn't intend to listen to other people's suggestions, no matter how nice they are. Su Tong nodded. Since Chang Wuju already had an idea in his mind, he didn't force him to do anything. He simply stood up and went to challenge himself. But before he could stand up from his chair, he suddenly felt a strong aura appearing in the crowd. Not just him, many people were shocked by this sudden aura. Yan Zioki, you are such a bitch. There was a long roar, and a figure stood up slowly, taking off his disguise in front of everyone, revealing his true appearance. He was a young man with black hair and thick eyebrows, and a tall figure. Once the disguise was removed, the strong aura about him began to spread uncontrollably. At that moment, several people who were closer to the young man let out a muffled sound and suddenly fell to the ground. This was not an active attack by the young man, but the terrifying coercion formed by the huge aura on his body, like a surging tide, which made everyone's heart beat faster and was very painful. It's the vice captain of the spear gods, Judge Meng. Many people recognized the identity of the visitor at a glance, and their hearts beat rapidly. Some people could no longer suppress the fear in their hearts and got up and ran away. Their panicked expressions showed their fear of Meng Changshen even through their disguises. Because he is not only the deputy leader of the spear gods, but also one of the 8 evils. The so-called 6 groups, 2 gods, and 8 great evils. The first 2 are not scary enough, but the 8 evils are recognized demons among players. These 8 villains are Meng Changshen, Kada Zui, Xieji Unfeng, Li Shumei, Meng Daoxuan, Yekahua, Zhang Tyrant, and Du Wenbei. Whoever meets these 8 people will be unlucky. It can be said that it is better to meet 2 gods than evil people. Because they are not normal people at all, they are all mentally twisted perverts. Take Meng Changshen in front of him as an example. The person who falls into his hands is simply worse than death. It is said that this guy's favorite thing is to combine people and plants and grow all kinds of weird plants. The most famous thing is the girl fruit he made, using the body of a girl to make a fruit tree. Every 7 days, the fruit tree will produce fruits, each one bright red and translucent, and the taste is the body fragrance of the girl. For this reason, he even cultivated thousands of girls into his manor, which he called Wanfang Garden. This is just the tip of the iceberg of his various crimes. One can imagine how twisted this guy's psychology is. When such a monster appears next to him, even in a high-end exhibition area, people can't help but feel terrified. I saw Meng Changshen striding onto the ring. The team leader gave you the token in the hope that you would take the initiative to join the spear gods. I didn't expect that you would not be fine with the toast, so it would save the team leader a lot of thinking. By the way, I recently planned to cultivate a Wanbao tree, but I haven't been able to find suitable seeds. I think you are quite good. Faced with Meng Changshen's provocation, Yan Zioki was very calm. Ever since he made such a decision, he had already prepared for the worst. No matter who came, whether it was Meng Changshen or the gunslinger himself, he would not give a damn about. Yan Zioki said with a smile, "Last time I met a tyrant, he asked me to tell you that soon, he plans to demolish your Wanfang garden and twist off your head to use as a chamber pot." When he heard the word tyrant, Meng Changshen's pupils jumped slightly, the corners of his mouth twitched a few times unconsciously, and his expression suddenly darkened, and he said, "Are you going to shave yourself, or are you waiting for me to take action?" Yan Zioki sneered and said nothing. He walked as lightly as an immortal and slid out, heading straight for Meng Changshen in front of him. When Meng Changsheng saw this, instead of taking the initiative to fight, he slowly backed away, like a cat playing with a mouse, and he casually threw out 2 seeds and dropped them at his feet. In an instant, the entire ground shook violently, and with a roar, countless huge roots rose from the ground. The faces of babies slowly formed on the smooth roots, and a harsh cry came out of the mouth. The cries formed a strange sound wave, attacking the surroundings indiscriminately. Ripples like rain curtains suddenly rippled across the barrier protection of the arena. It's just that although the barrier can filter out the lethality contained in the cries, the harsh sound is also confusing and makes people feel as big as a head. Let's go, I can't stand it. Some people couldn't bear the harsh crying, so they got up and left quickly. But most people endured the irritating crying and watched intently. Meng Changshen's battle against Yan Zhaoqi, although not as good as the gunslinger, is still worth the price of admission. Yan Zhaoqi was seen with his hands behind his back, not paying attention to the cries, and walking around without being affected at all. Rumble. The huge rhizome emerged from the ground like a wild python. The rhizome jumped up and gradually grew pink leaves in mid-air, followed by huge fruits. He, Yan Zhaoqi, try this. Meng Changsheng stood on a tree vine and patted the strange tree next to him. He saw that the fruit on it was getting bigger and bigger, and then the fruit cracked open. 3 pink humanoid creatures were twisting in the fruit, and gradually what everyone didn't expect was that the figure in the fruit gradually turned into Meng Changsheng. Not to mention they are exactly the same, they are almost like twin brothers. 3 Meng Changsheng. Now everyone was also shocked. Head, are these 3 illusions? Gao Zhou asked Su Tong in a low voice. Su Tong shook his head and saw his life icon open. He looked at Meng Changsheng who had transformed from the 3 fruits. He found that there was no human life in the 3 fruits, but they had the same energy as Meng Changsheng. An aura. Haha, it really means something like that. Yan Zhaoqi looked at these fakes and couldn't help but nodded. No wonder you can be the deputy leader of the Gunslings regiment, you should have more than 3 fruits. If the environment is larger, you can have as many as you want. But to deal with you, 3 is enough. Meng Changsheng was obviously a master of summoning style. After saying that, with a wave of his hand, 3 Meng Changsheng suddenly rushed towards Yan Zhaoqi. 3 figures, the same face, but completely different methods. I saw Meng Changsheng on the left taking 1 step forward. With a wave of his hand, he mobilized the huge trees and vines around him to twist together, turning into a big hand that covered the sky and pushed him all the way. Seeing this, Yan Zhaoqi waved the scabbard in his hand, and a light sword energy suddenly split open the large hand in front of him. But at the moment of the split, another Meng Changsheng had already killed him from the side. This Meng Changsheng was obviously good at close combat, and his move was actually the Buddhist demon suppressing hand seal. It was extremely powerful and fierce, like a golden mountain pressing across the sky. It was so powerful that everyone was ashamed. Yan Zhaoqi could only dodge sideways, and his figure avoided the palm lightly. At the same time, he gently raised the scabbard in his hand and struck the opponent with a stick. The scabbard fell like the earth in the sky, thick and majestic, covering everything. Everyone felt the force of this seemingly striking force. For a moment, it was as if a force had strangled their throats, making everyone in the audience feel as if they were about to suffocate. Click. With a bang, Meng Changsheng, who was under the scabbard, was suddenly crushed into powder by this terrifying force. Everyone was shocked. Is this the strength of top players? Su Tong was shocked in his heart. Yan Zhaoqi had not drawn the sword until now, but was holding the scabbard as a stick. In a daze, Su Tong saw in Yan Zhaoqi the illusion of his master, Mr. Song, holding a small stick and staring at him while reading. This guy is giving Meng Changsheng an education lesson. What a heart, Su Tong couldn't help but look at Yan Zhaoqi with admiration. He looked at it with his life icon, but he couldn't see through Yanzioki's strength. But he noticed that the luck behind Yanzioki was like the sun, and the energy was like a rainbow. Vaguely, it seemed that a unique aura was rapidly taking shape. Wait. Does this guy want to? At this time, Su Tong's heart suddenly tightened. He quickly took out the certified player's handbook that Ame had given him before, and quickly opened to the page about the title player. When he carefully examined the criteria for obtaining title players, he was suddenly shocked. He knew what Yanzioki was going to do. So this is Su Tong had a look of sudden realization on his face, and when he looked at Yanzioki, his eyes were a little complicated. "Tou, what's wrong with you?" Gu-11 rolled his eyes and looked around. After noticing the change in Su Tong's breathing, he quietly asked Su Tong. Su Tong did not explain, but instead smiled coldly and said, "Hey, just watch, I'm afraid it won't be long before Yanzioki Sandu's title will be changed. I'm afraid if the gunslinger doesn't come in person today, I'm afraid it will be too late to regret it in the future." While he was talking, he saw Yanzioki walking leisurely on the tree vines. Faced with the flanking attack of the other two men, Changshen, the scabbard in his hand seemed fast and slow, light and heavy. When it is fast, it is like lightning; when it is slow, it is like a rotten tree; when it is light and agile, it is like a rabbit; when it is heavy, it is like Mount Tai. No matter how sharp and varied the attacks of the two men Changshen were, they were understated and vulnerable to a single blow in front of Yanzioki. At this moment, Meng Changshen began to feel a little frightened. He did not expect that Yanzioki's strength would improve to such an extent. He looked solemn for a moment. "I didn't expect that you could really break through to this level. I told your leader a long time ago that this day will come." After Yanzioki finished speaking, he examined Meng Changshen. "I also told you that your route has gone astray. You uncle, it's not your turn to lecture." Hearing this, Meng Changshen suddenly became angry. He stamped his feet, and young tree buds sprouted from his feet, and then pierced into his body. Suddenly, a large area of tree vines withered, and power like a vast ocean was injected into Meng Changshen's body, interweaving a bright and dazzling light on his body. At this moment, Meng Changshen seemed to be transformed into a god, and his every move affected the changes in the surrounding space. Boom! However, Yanzioki was faster and appeared in front of Meng Changshen in a flash. The scabbard swung and hit the bright light in front of him. Meng Changshen's body trembled and he was almost knocked to the ground. When Meng Changshen stood firm, he realized that Yanzioki had not killed him at all, otherwise he would have been injured even if he was killed just now. Looking up again, he found that Yanzioki was looking at him silently, shaking his head. Meng Changshen was really annoyed. Like a human-shaped wild dragon, he raised his hands and feet, collapsing the void, and shot out with both hands, like tearing up mountains and splitting mountains. Brave and unstoppable. Boom! The arena suddenly exploded under Meng Changshen's fist. Thousands of feet of dirt and sand rolled up in the arena. The huge explosion could be felt in most of the exhibition area. For a moment, everyone was shocked by this terrifying power. If it were not for the protection of the rules of the exhibition, which limited Meng Changshen's power to the arena, I am afraid that the arena would have been razed to the ground by this time. This power is so terrifying. If it were our script world this time, even Mansai Musashi Gen wouldn't be able to withstand Meng Changshen's punch. Faced with the absolute strength gap, even Gaozhou, who has always been tough talking, had to give in. Buzz. At this time, a crisp buzzing sound suddenly sounded in the gladiatorial arena. Hearing the buzzing sound of drawing a sword, Su Tong instantly got goosebumps, and he suddenly thought of a person in his mind. One sword kills the dragon, the wine sword fairy Qing Ji. The moment this thought came to mind, the sand and gravel in mid-air suddenly split into two, and the whole world suddenly became quiet. Until half a second later, the sand and gravel fell, and the arena roared like a pot of stew. After everyone came back to their senses, they discovered that the arena had turned into a mess of ruins. Only Yan Zhaoqi was standing on the ruins, but Meng Changshen was nowhere to be seen. Buzz. The long sword was put into the scabbard, and Yan Zhaoqi took out the notebook as usual. After quickly writing a few lines on it, he threw it with his backhand and saw the paper flying out of the arena like a bow and arrow, firmly inserted into the entrance and exit. On the doorpost. At this time, everyone saw Meng Changshen, who had walked to the gate. It's the same advice I gave you before. Although you don't want to listen, I still wrote it down. If you don't want to accept it, just leave it in it. Facing Yan Zhaoqi's words, Meng Changshen's expression flickered for a moment. After gritting his teeth and glaring at Yan Zhaoqi fiercely, he reached out and pulled out the paper and stuffed it into his pocket. Then he strode away without looking back. Now everyone in the audience was excited. Meng Changshen lost, and this result surprised everyone. What made them even more incredible was that Yan Zhaoqi seemed to have broken through the previous bottleneck, and his strength had reached a higher level. He only used a sword to kill Meng Changshen. It's too scary. Yan Zhaoqi's strength is at least on par with the two gods. No wonder he dares to use the spear god's face to promote his own arena. Some people realize it later. Yan Zhaoqi's actions today completely offended the spear gods. But his action of instantly killing Meng Changshen with one sword was enough to prove that he had what it took to compete with the two gods. I don't think so. Some people are more sensible. The space in the arena is too small, which is actually very unpleasant for Meng Changshen. If the space could be larger and give Meng Changshen enough space to change the surrounding environment, even if he couldn't defeat Yan Zhaoqi, he wouldn't be like this. Such a disastrous failure. This statement attracted some people's approval, but some people objected. Yan Zhaoqi never really made a killing move from the beginning to the end. He was always teaching Meng Changshen educational lessons. For this reason, Yan Zhaoqi's strength has gone far beyond Meng Changshen. While everyone was talking about it, Su Tong had already stood up and led Gao Zhou and the others out. "Tou, why don't you try it?" Gao Zhou asked quickly when he saw this. Su Tong shook his head. "No need to try, I think I almost know how I should break through next." After watching this battle, Su Tong has already made an assessment of his own strength in his mind, and he is also very clear about where his shortcomings are, so going up to fight now is a waste of time. It is better to wait until he truly breaks through. It would be better to come to Yan Zhaoqi to confirm his idea. After everyone walked out of the arena, Gao Zhou and Gu Zibai ran to retreat. Under Yan Zhaoqi's guidance, they had understood the direction of their advancement, and the next step was to follow this direction. As for Chang Wuhan, after Gao Zhou and Gu Zibai left, he walked up to Su Tong with a smile and said, "Lend me something." "What?" "Black Water Dragon Fang." Chang Wugu knows his situation very well. Although he has many prop cards, most of them are not systematic, so he plans to change his status this time. For him, the set of daggers of Black Water Dragon Fang is very helpful. That's why I came to Su Tong to ask for it. Here you go, but I can't give it to you for free. I'll give you 20,000 script points and send them to the team warehouse. Su Tong didn't give it for free, but the price of 20,000 yuan for the script could only be said to be symbolic for Chang Wenzhen. After getting the Blackwater Dragon Tooth, Chang Wuhan ran away. For a while, Su Tong was the only one left on the street. Su Tong stood on the street. After thinking for a moment, he asked the spirit guide to find a relatively quiet place. As I walked, I thought to myself, Yan Zhaoqi created this arena, on the one hand, to make himself famous, and on the other hand, he used his own advantages to quickly build an industry. It can be seen that the higher the level, the more terrifying the consumption of script points. We need to plan early, and Yanzioki happens to be taking care of it. If I establish an industry as soon as possible, the gunslingers may not be able to take care of me for a while. Thinking of this, Su Tong gradually stopped and looked around. After realizing that there were not many people in this area, Su Tong took a deep breath and first took out the Rainbow Lucky Potion prepared by Mr. Tai. This bottle of Lucky Potion is slightly different from the Lucky Potion I usually buy from Ame. After drinking it, you will randomly receive a zodiac blessing. After taking the potion and taking a gentle sniff under the bridge of his nose, Su Tong felt that it tasted pretty good. Just when he was about to take a breath, he suddenly remembered something. Immediately stepped on the foot, only to see time marks appear on the soles of the feet. I do this just in case, so that if I don't do well, I can try again. Then he raised the bottle in his hand and drank the Rainbow Lucky Potion. He immediately felt that his luck was improving rapidly. At this time, he heard a squeaking sound in his ears, and looked up with his life icon, only to see a small hole in his luck. Then he saw a white mouse covered with gold, silver, and jade jumping into his luck following a colorful auspicious cloud. Seeing this, Su Tong's heart skipped a beat, and he said as if he was blessed, "Heaven opens to you, destroying the chaos." Zi hour refers to 23 o'clock to 1 o'clock. It is both the end of one day and the beginning of a new day. The rat brings good fortune, which is a good sign of a new beginning. With such strange luck, Su Tong was not polite and quickly took out the dream key. Ding, are you sure to activate the dream key and start the lottery? Hearing the prompt, Su Tong's eyes gradually became hot, he took a deep breath and nodded heavily, confirm. Because there are a lot of fighting scenes in this section, I just finished writing it in one go before posting it, which is a bit late. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shuigan Xiao. Chapter 912. Following Su Tong's confirmation voice, the key in his hand suddenly flashed, and a rotating treasure box appeared in front of Su Tong. Kakaka. After the box turned a few times, Su Tong suddenly felt that his luck had changed. The white mouse in his luck actually jumped out and got into the box. After a while, the box stopped, and the white mouse came out again, with its pink paws. After throwing something to Su Tong, he returned to his luck. Ding! Congratulations on winning the first prize. You have obtained a unique piece of land. Su Tong was stunned when a prompt sounded in his ears. He didn't expect that zodiac blessings could be used in this way. This is really a good thing. I will ask Mr. Tai for more next time no matter what. Su Tong secretly decided that the next time he saw Mr. Tai, he must ask for a few more bottles of Rainbow Lucky Potion, otherwise he would be sorry for his status as a shareholder. Take another look at the map in your hand. Advanced Exhibition Area Division Engineering Drawing. Su Tong unfolded the drawings, and saw that the drawings suddenly turned into dots of fluorescence and spread out, constructing a three-dimensional model in front of Su Tong. Most of the areas are marked as red areas, which means that they have been selected. The blue area represents options, but not much space. There are the most yellow areas, and the environment of each area is very large, but the place is slightly remote. For example, Longxia Cave obviously belongs to the yellow area. Now Su Tong was in trouble. Naturally, the bigger the area for the industry, the better. However, if it is separated from the prosperous area, the competitiveness will be very poor, especially in the early stage. He needs to open the market very quickly, and he needs to be in a place with a large flow of people. The place. But now it seems that the real core circle area is basically occupied. The part that made him jealous the most was the moon-watching epiphyllum of the Spear God Regiment. Good guy, I didn't see it before, but now I took a look at it with the blueprint. It occupies a huge area and is standing in the center. Next are casinos, Taoist tea houses, non-return hot springs and other shops. There is almost no space left for him in the central area. After thinking for a moment, Su Tong could only do the next best thing and choose the next blue location. He picked and selected, and finally chose a piece of land in a slightly off-center place. The place is not big, but it faces the street, because it is at the opposite corner of the intersection, forming a triangle. If you open the door for business, it is about gold with silver edges. In places like Cross Street, the diagonal sections of the street are all gold. Section. It is said to be a good place, but it is so vacant that no one cares about it. It is not unreasonable, because although it is diagonal, it is a narrow entrance. If you hang a signboard, the plaque can stretch half a meter across. As the saying goes, you can't open a shop through a narrow door, and you can't open a restaurant through a secret door. It is for this reason that this location has remained vacant. Su Tong didn't care about the width of the door. He only had his own business, and this store was enough. So I decisively chose this place. Ding. You have obtained the ownership of the land in this area, and you can buy the property you need here. Ding. This location is an unpopular location, and the exhibition is willing to give you a grand opening gift package as compensation. Please inquire by yourself. There's also a big gift package. Su Tong scratched his head. This was an unexpected surprise, and then the map in front of him gradually shrank, and finally condensed into a bronze key, which was the certificate of industry. Ding, this property is a private property. If you do not designate a successor, once you die, the property will be inherited by the team members. Su Tong nodded when he heard the prompt, then put away the keys, took out the prop book and checked the so-called opening gift package. Opening gift package. Privilege 1, receive elf advertising. When you open your business, you can use this privilege and the fair elves will promote your products. Privilege 2, large screen advertising. When you open your business, you can use this privilege to have your product information frequently appear in the trading area above the high-end exhibition area. Note, you can only choose one of the above two privileges. Oh, so this is the opening gift package. Su Tong nodded thoughtfully, and suddenly realized something in his heart. He raised his head and looked at the reception elf next to him. You told me before that Yan Zioki was going to have a public duel with the gunslinger. Was it an advertisement? The reception elf nodded frankly, yes, master. So, how much does an advertisement cost? Su Tong continued to ask. There are different standards. The same sentence, depending on the amount you pay, the way we tell the owner is different. When Su Tong heard this, he immediately became interested. What about? For example, if you advertise a product to me, if it is of the lowest standard, we will only tell you as news when the owner is free. If it is of medium standard, we will report to you with a slightly surprised expression. High standard, we will unify the words to ensure that the owner's interest is aroused as soon as possible, and a promotional photo will be attached. Heh, it's quite humane. Su Tong smiled and asked about the prices of the three standards. After asking, he found out that the cost was ridiculously high. The low standard requires 30,000 script points to start. The medium standard requires 50,000 script points. High standards require 100,000 script points. Hearing this number, Su Tong suddenly wanted to take back what he just said. 100,000 script points, is it still humane? If you don't do a striptease, I'll feel sorry for the price. Talking to the guide spirit, he walked away. After a while, he arrived in front of the land he purchased. He took out the key and opened the door. A prompt sounded from the prop book. You already have your own property in the exhibition area. Every time you enter the high-end exhibition area, you can go directly back to your property room and just set up your master bedroom here. You can choose to leave 8 clerks and 1 partner in the industry. The clerks can be selected from your own team and deputy team, or you can recruit them yourself, or even pets. As your exclusive industry, you can embed industrial props into the industry, and you can also take them away at any time. As props embedded in the industry, others cannot use them without your authorization. Following the prompt, the door opened. Su Tong walked in and took a look. The space inside was indeed quite large. And there are more than one level, 3 above and 2 below. With this area, if it weren't for the narrow facade, it could easily be a restaurant. Daya. Su Tong called out softly, beckoning Daya and the others to come out and let them clean the inside. He called out the prop book, took out the small notebook from before, and drew an X on the line that said "Open the Dream Key." It's a pity that something happened to the casino and it is now banned. Otherwise, with my current luck, it would be a pity not to go to the casino to gamble. Then he called to fetch the elf, "I want to buy a flesh and blood body. Is there any place to sell it?" Su Tong remembered that there seems to be a killing shop in the low-level exhibition area, which is a place where people can kill for fun. From this, there should be a similar place in the high-level exhibition area, and maybe there are bodies that can be sold. Yes, there is a shop called Flesh and Blood Hall in the northwest corner, which specializes in selling this, the guide elf said. Hearing that it was indeed for sale, Su Tong asked Daya and the others to clean the store first, and then sent the location of the property to Gao Zhou and others before heading to the Flesh and Blood Hall. The reason why he is so eager is that he has already figured out his future path to advancement. Before that, Ameta's matter must be resolved as soon as possible. Arriving at the door of the Flesh and Flesh Hall, Su Tong smelled a strong smell of blood. When he walked in, he saw a familiar painting style. I saw coffins neatly placed in the shop. In every coffin, there may be a person lying quietly inside. No matter how you look at it, this scene is so similar to that of the ghost coffin shop in the ghost market. "Hello, sir, what do you need?" When the shopkeeper saw a customer coming to the door, he immediately came forward and looked at Su Tong's body with eyes gleaming. He couldn't help but praise, "What a pure Yang disaster body. If the guest wants to sell it, this one will be for sale. Flesh body, I am willing to give you a satisfactory price." Su Tong was shocked. He didn't expect that the shopkeeper could ignore his disguise and directly see through his physical condition. Apart from being surprised, it is inevitable that I will also feel bored. Seeing that Su Tong was silent, the shopkeeper immediately realized that he had said the wrong thing and hurriedly said, "Haha, sir, I don't know. I have an occupational disease. Don't be the same as me. Please come in, please come in." Then he shouted to the waiter behind the hall, "Tea." When Su Tong saw this, he walked into the shop. As soon as he sat down, the waiter brought tea. "Sir, our store is an old and original store, so some of the rules of the exhibition are of no use to us. Therefore, we can see your true face at a glance. Please forgive me for any offense." The shopkeeper picked up the teacup, took a sip, and explained to Su Tong. The so-called native stores refer to the stores that existed when the exhibition just started. Strictly speaking, they are the merchants in the exhibition. As for the businesses opened by players, although there are many in number, the Bayabao collection is far from comparable to these original shops. Su Tong nodded to express his understanding. At this time, the shopkeeper continued, "Since you are not here to sell flesh bodies, you are here to buy flesh bodies. Our store has flesh bodies of various strange bloodlines, as well as top-notch immortal bodies. As long as the price is right, you will be satisfied." Although he had been introduced by the reception elf on the way here, Su Tong was still very surprised after hearing the shopkeeper's words, "Do you have any kind of physical body?" "Certainly." The shopkeeper took out a booklet and handed it to Su Tong. Su Tong opened it and took a look, his eyelids twitched slightly. On the booklet is a list of more than 10 kinds of bodies, recording in detail the characteristics of each body, such as height, bloodline, whether there are hidden diseases, etc. The level of detail would make even those organ dealers ashamed. After flipping through a few pages, It turned out that there were indeed some bodies with unique physiques for sale here. For example, a little girl has an exquisite body and is born with Taoist charm. She can cultivate dozens of times faster than ordinary people. There is also a young man who has the blood of a bull demon. When angry, he can transform into a bull demon and has the power of 9 bulls to break mountains. These are also appetizers. Su Tong turned back and found a man with double pupils. Born with double pupils, he has mysterious and unpredictable powers. Do you even have double pupils? He was really shocked now. He had a personal experience of how terrifying people with double eyes were. I had met him once in the script world, and the other person was just a little boy. If he hadn't guided me, I would have chosen the wrong pottery vat earlier, and ended up in a state of despair. Not to mention the little boy, there was blind man Kong, the Midas master, who also had double pupils. Unfortunately, both eyes were blind and the double pupils were incomplete. Even so, blind man Kong was able to thrive with his double pupils. This shows how strong people with double pupils are. Yes, but these are not true double pupils, but pseudo-double pupils. You can see clearly from the writing on the back. The boss smiled and pointed to the sentence written on the back of the booklet. When Su Tong heard this, he quickly looked back. Sure enough, there is a paragraph below that clearly says, although there are double pupils, they are not true double pupils. You can only use double pupils 12 times in your life. Every time you use them, you will be punished by God. After 12 times, your lifespan will be over. It was shortened to 1 month and has been used 3 times now. Seeing this, Su Tong couldn't help but feel a little regretful. After taking a look at the price, this body is not cheap. It requires 300,000 script points and 8 gold badges before it is sold. After all, Kong Tong's ability is too incredible. Even though this body only has 9 chances to be used, it is still extremely precious. Su Tong continued to turn back, and after turning 2 pages, a physical body appeared in front of him. This is it. Amota's voice appeared in Su Tong's mind. It was obvious that he had been paying attention to this matter silently. When he saw the body in front of him, his voice suddenly became excited. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 913. The reason why Ameta is so excited is because this body is so suitable for him. Born with yin veins, a precious body of evil ways, born with 100 ghosts. Su Tong calmly glanced at the contents and prices on the brochure. The script score of 280,000 yuan is relatively cheaper than Chongtong, but the price is still a bit expensive. Sure enough, there is only one disease in the world, poverty. Fortunately, Su Tong could afford the money. Su Tong continued to turn back, and after flipping through 2 pages, he simply turned back. Shopkeeper, can you give me a discount on this physical body? One price, how about 250,000? The shopkeeper is also a happy person. 200,000, this body is much worse than I expected. 200,000 is my limit. Su Tong is not bargaining, but he is really only willing to pay 200,000 script points. If it exceeds this number, he would rather wait until the next script world starts before looking for a moda. After all, no one's money comes from the strong wind. If you want to open a store, there are still many places to use the money. The script score of 200,000 yuan is still for Ameta's sake. After the shopkeeper was silent for a few seconds, he nodded. Well, business is hard to do these days, so let's just make friends. Thank you, shopkeeper. If I need it in the future, I will come again. Su Tong raised his hand towards the shopkeeper and readily divided the 200,000 scripts onto the shopkeeper's counter. Not long after, a coffin was delivered. Su Tong opened the coffin and found a middle-aged man lying inside. Although he was breathing, he had no soul. After confirming that it was correct, Su Tong carried the coffin on his body and strode away with the coffin. After Su Tong left, the waiter brought a cup of tea and asked doubtfully, "Shopkeeper, isn't this giving him an advantage? Hey, it would be nice to be able to sell it." The shopkeeper sighed, "He is haunted by hundreds of ghosts. He is a complete broom star. He has reached middle age and his vitality is running low. If the person who takes the body is not strong enough, he may not survive long." When the guy heard this, he suddenly realized. After the shopkeeper finished speaking, he couldn't help but feel a little regretful. It's a pity that the other party didn't sell his body, otherwise we could still make a lot of money. Yes, his physical body is rare. He must have eaten the flesh of Hudo. The man nodded repeatedly, not forgetting to show his opinion. As a result, after saying this, the shopkeeper sneered and scolded, "Idiot, if you do business, you will really lose all our capital." Ah! The guy was scolded and his head was covered. I just heard the shopkeeper whisper, "The precious thing about this kid is his blood. There is something hidden in his blood. Unfortunately, he doesn't know it himself. I guess it was deliberately hidden by some god. Can blood still hide things?" The guy had an unheard look on his face. "Hey, it's not easy to hide something in the blood of one's own descendants. You still need to study more." The shopkeeper pointed at the clerk and lectured him again. On the other side, Su Tong carried the coffin and walked to his home purchase shop. As he walked, he heard Amota's cheap laughter in his mind. 200,000, ha ha ha. This idiot must have thought that this body was running low on vitality and would not last long, so he was eager to sell it to you. How could he know that this body is most valuable only when it is about to die? When? Amata smiled happily. With this physical body, he can quickly regain his strength. But what Su Tong said next made Amata stop laughing. "You better think about it. You can repay the 200,000 script points with whatever you want. If you can't afford it, I don't mind opening a duck restaurant first and letting you stay and sell your ass." Amata was dumbfounded at this time. She was stunned for a while, and then she said in a faint and resentful voice, "I thought we were friends. Don't do this, you are a god of hell after all. If you can't get the 200,000 script points, you will stay in my shop and work for me to pay off the debt." Su Tong showed his little tail. "Now we have all the industries, but to open your own pharmacy, you not only need land, you also need people. In addition to Ame, the store needs assistants, shopkeepers, experts in alchemy, and people to package things. I can keep the good fortune and wealth to take care of the business. But Dia and the 5 furballs need to be taken with them. Therefore, there is still a shortage of manpower. Since Amota has no money to pay off the debt, he should stay with himself and work for now." Amota was speechless for a moment, but Su Tong said that working part-time would not only help him pay off his debts, but also earn some script points. As long as the script points are enough, and there are so many good things in the exhibition, wouldn't it help him regain his strength? After hearing Su Tong's deception, Amota thought about the same reason and simply acquiesced. While the two were talking, when they returned to the store, they found that Mr. Tai and Ame were already standing in front of their store waiting for them. "You came at the right time." Su Tong didn't know how Mr. Tai knew that he already owned the property, but the two of them came, which saved him a lot of trouble. "Go in and talk." Mr. Tai pulled the cloak on his head. They were not players and were not protected by disguise, so Mr. Tai wore a cloak to hide his identity. Su Tong immediately carried the coffin and led the two people into the shop. "It's not bad, there's enough space." After Mr. Tai took a look at the shop that had been cleaned, he nodded with satisfaction, then took out a small box. When he opened the box, he saw 3 or 5 elves flying out. These are tool elves. Letting them decorate your shop will leave you with a lot of energy. Mr. Tai said, waving his hand to signal these elves to go to work. The elves dispersed in a hurry, got into the gaps in the stairs, and began to understand the situation of the building. Then the 3 of them walked to the top of the building. Mr. Tai did not hesitate, took out another bag and threw it on the ground. The bag opened and more than 10 large wooden boxes flew out from the bag and were neatly placed on the ground. In the corner, Su Tong opened the box and took a look. It was densely packed with reconstruction pills. There are countless such pills in these large boxes, enough for them to sell them for a long time. The pills in these boxes are our first batch of medicines. Once you sell them out, we will start to share the dividends, and I will provide you with the next batch of medicines. Mr. Tai said, looking at Aimee aside, from now on, you can be here, free, and do whatever you want, but don't be too showy. Aimee understood what Mr. Tai meant, and nodded slightly, thank you very much, sir. From today on, let's keep the same, but you don't want to embarrass my good sister too much. After all, I am no longer a good sister. You are truly a polished commander. The words sounded pleasant to the ear, but if you think about it carefully, you can easily hear the threat behind the words. As Mr. Tai's eloquent right-hand man, Aimee naturally knows how many shady things he has done. Huh. I know that, Mr. Tai responded with a cold snort, then looked at Su Tong and said, Yan Zioki will become a god soon, and I hope you will be among the next people to become a god. After saying that, Mr. Tai waved his hand, I'm leaving first. It's up to you how to operate it next. You are a visitor, so I'd better see you off, sir. Aimee said with a smile. The corner of Mr. Tai's mouth twitched a few times, and he could only turn around and follow Aimee away with an angry groan. After the 2 people left, Su Tong stood at the window and looked out. When he thought of Mr. Tai's words just now, he felt a little complicated. Become a god. It seems that his previous guess was right. Yan Zioki was indeed going to become famous and become a god. I wonder if the leader of the Spear God Regiment would regret not showing up as soon as possible to kill Yan Zioki's wish to become a god. Lifted to the cradle. How did Su Tong know that the gunslinger was not at the exhibition at this moment? Otherwise, how could Yan Zioki's actions have escaped his notice? He must have personally come to kill his plan to become a god in the cradle. But having said that, if Yan Zioki didn't even know about this matter, how could he dare to step on the face of the spear gods and forcefully become a god? Just as I was thinking about it, Aimee had already turned back. Should I call you boss from now on, or should I call you young master? Aimee asked, staring at Su Tong with a smile. When outsiders are here, just call me boss. When outsiders are away, just call me Su Tong. You are a partner, not a clerk in the store. Su Tong smiled and said to Aimee, remember when we told you that I wanted to treat you to hot pot, how about today? I happen to be hungry. Thank you for remembering. Since it's the boss's treat, how can I not go? Aimee covered her mouth and said with a chuckle. Su Tong called Da Ya and the others, and the group went straight to a large restaurant in the exhibition. After booking a private room, a very large hot pot was set up in a short time. Su Tong even called Gao Zhou back. In the end, only Gu Zibai came, while Gao Zhou and Chang Wogu were still busy with their own advancement matters. Everyone at the dinner table exchanged cups, and they ate happily. It's a pity that Amoda could only watch helplessly, cursing Su Tong for being a profiteer. Why not let him finish the seizure first? Boss, do you mean that next, we will monopolize the entire high-end exhibition pharmacy? While eating, Gu Zibai couldn't help but ask with bright eyes when he heard that Su Tong was going to sell reconstruction pill next. No. Su Tong shook his head and explained, selling medicines is just to gain fame. We don't make a living by buying medicines to accumulate enough capital for us in the early stage. Moreover, drug stores at high-end exhibitions not only sell one kind of medicine, they also sell other finished medicines, semi-finished products, and medicinal materials. The people who sell medicines are professional. What we really sell is the fantasy Rubik's Cube. It's not so much a fantasy Rubik's Cube as it is the strengthening ability of the fantasy Rubik's Cube. Mr. Tai can buy shares, but he must not become dependent on him. Fantasy Rubik's Cube is his main sales direction in the future. As long as they rely on these drugs to improve their strength enough, they don't need to expose the dream Rubik's Cube, they only need to provide processing services. The processing cost of the fantasy cube is easy to calculate. They only need to take the things to the fantasy cube, calculate the first strengthening cost, and then fill in a little bit on it. It is a business without capital and a profit. Moreover, this kind of operation involves settling accounts in front of the stage and processing behind the stage, saving worry and effort, which is the best effect. But if everyone can strengthen themselves by doing this, wouldn't we be at a huge disadvantage? Gu Zibai said with some concern. Regarding Gu Zibai's concerns, Su Tong just smiled indifferently, picked up a chopstick of fat lamb and stuffed it into his mouth, and then asked. What I want is this effect. As long as more and more people are strengthened, if you don't strengthen, others will strengthen. In order to prevent others from being stronger than you can only grit your teeth and become stronger. They will become more and more powerful. Let's make more and more money, and all I want is for everyone to follow me and roll up. Infinite Script Killing. Author, Guo Shui Gan Xiao. Chapter 914. Su Tong's idea is dangerous. It's just as evil as Yu Buchan's practice of making 100,000 copies of the sword technique to ward off evil spirits after he obtained it, and distributing it to various martial arts sects. The difference is that unlike Yu Buchan, he has always firmly controlled the fantasy Rubik's Cube. Maybe one day Su Tong is in a bad mood and closes the store, and then all the players in the exhibition will have to curse. After hearing Su Tong talk about his future plans, Gu Zibai thought to himself, if it really comes to this point, the script points in all players' hands will probably start to increase in value. After all, the enhancement of the fantasy Rubik's Cube costs money to an exaggerated degree. Coupled with the fact that they add even a small amount of basic fees, the price becomes even more terrible. If he hadn't been on the same team as Su Tong, I might have shouted that Su Tong's plan was a cancer for players. Once you have a direction, just concentrate on the next thing. After everyone had eaten and drank, they went directly back to the shop. After returning to the shop, the first thing Su Tong did was to help Amota complete the body snatching process. Because this physical body itself is an empty shell, Amota's seizure of the body is almost as simple as a matter of course. After completing the seizure, the demonic power in Su Tong's prop card suddenly disappeared. At the same time, he also felt a lightness on his body. The Chunyang sword code, which had been silent for a long time, had begun to loosen up. I believe it has broken through to the 9th level. It's just a matter of time. Amota crawled out of the coffin, and the feeling of finally being reborn made him scream with excitement. Su Tong asked casually, how does this physical body feel? Amota took out a gift mirror from the coffin. After carefully examining his face at the moment, he nodded with great satisfaction and said to Su Tong, this is great. If you wait a few more months, this guy's lifespan will be it's almost here, and then I can use the death energy from his body to be reborn as a soldier. Bingja. Su Tong was startled, I spent 200,000 to co-write it, and you still want to die? No, 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 unlike the kind of soldier you think of, this guy is a pure ghost body. With the help of soldier, his body can be transformed into the body of a spirit fairy. Only then can I truly merge with my body. The so-called spirit immortals are a special kind of existence between earthly immortals and ghost immortals. For Emerta, This is the best choice. Oh, okay, I don't care if you are a ghost fairy or a spirit fairy. If you don't do your job, I will throw you out and sell your ass first. As Su Tong spoke, he pointed to Ame beside him and said to Amoda, from now on, I will be the shopkeeper. Just listen to her. Amoda glanced at Ame and saw Ame looking at him with a smile, as if looking at a delicate snack, and a chill suddenly rose in his heart. Then I saw Su Tong inlaying the fantasy Rubik's Cube into the store, and it turned into a strange forge in the basement of the store. After Su Tong authorized everyone to use the fantasy Rubik's Cube, everyone began to work on the reconstruction pill. With the experience of processing enlightenment pill last time, everyone's division of labor was clear. Su Tong and Gu Zibai were responsible for processing. Jixiang was in charge of bottling, and Dia was in charge of packaging. Fu Kei's palm was dipped in the cinnabar ink on the side, and then he lightly pressed it with his palm, marking a little fat man's mark. A reconstruction pill priced at 800 script points has just been released. As for Amoda, he is just responsible for transporting these processed elixirs into the warehouse on the first floor. In this way, everyone stayed at home and worked overtime. Finally, after 3 days, most of the recycled pills in the warehouse were processed. The Add 6 level creation pill only requires 800 script points. The price is not expensive. Even if it is placed in a general exhibition area, there are still a lot of people coming to buy it. The price of the Add 9 fortune pill has doubled, requiring 1,600 script points. Su Tong also specially purchased a display cabinet to place in the lobby of the pharmacy, specifically placing a Add 9 good fortune pill as an exhibit. The price of this elixir was a decision made by Su Tong and Ame after discussion. Ordinary reconstruction pills cost 800, which is not expensive in high-end exhibition areas, but is a bit expensive in low-end exhibition areas, which is completely stuck in the bottom line of most people's hearts. This can largely prevent anyone from going to low-level exhibition areas with elixirs to do scalping. As for the high-quality reconstruction pills, although the price is expensive, the goal is also very clear, which is to sell them to teams who are not short of money. Ordinary casual players can afford it just by gritting their teeth. Just like this, it is also more than 10 times the reward, which can almost make them crazy. After everything was ready, Su Tong did not open the business immediately. Instead, he gave everyone a day off so that everyone could eat, drink, and sleep happily. After all, after repeating machine-like work for several days without sleep, even if their bodies can bear it, their spirits will become very exhausted. So when the last bottle of reconstruction pill was marked by Fortune's little paw, everyone went back to their rooms to rest. I have to mention here that Mr. Tai's decoration wizard is really useful. They have been processing elixirs these days, and the decoration wizard has replanned and decorated the store. After integrating the Chinese style with modern features, every room looks very elegant and warm, without the boring feeling of traditional Chinese style. A special elevator passage was built behind the counter, leading directly to the basement. Ensure that the customer's items can be delivered to Dream Magic as soon as possible for processing and price calculation. It is also convenient to transport processed elixirs and so on. Everything was ready, and before Su Tong could lie down and close his eyes to rest for a while, Gao Zhou's shout was heard on the team channel. "Boss, something big happened." Su Tong closed his eyes and had no intention of opening them, and didn't even bother to pay attention. Or Gu Zibai asked in the team channel, "What's going on?" The leader of the Gun God regiment, the Gun God, has come to the arena in person. Hearing Gao Zhou's words, Su Tong's originally closed eyes suddenly opened. "Then what are you waiting for? Buy a ticket." However, Gao Zhou said helplessly this time, "The arena will not sell tickets this time. We can only wait for news outside." Hearing this, Su Tong rolled his eyes and said directly, "Then just wait, I'm sleeping, no one can bother me." After saying that, Su Tong closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep. Su Tong slept soundly this time and rested for a whole day before waking up. After waking up, Su Tong took a look at the chat history in the team channel and found that Gao Zhou and 3 others were chatting happily. Before he could take a closer look, he heard a prompt coming from the prop book. Congratulations to the player Yan Zhaoqi for winning the title of God of War. Loud reminders echoed in the ears, and even colorful fonts popped up on the information page of the prop book to congratulate Yan Zhaoqi. Now Su Tong knew without looking at the results that the battle between the gun god and Yan Zhaoqi did not stop Yan Zhaoqi from becoming a god, but accelerated his title of god. Was it just that the gunslinger was really defeated? Su Tong asked Gao Zhou and the others. Hearing Su Tong's voice, Gao Zhou immediately replied, I didn't lose, but I didn't win either. It seems like they were tied. A tie? Yes, but this tie has a certain degree of merit. It seems that the exhibition restricted some of the skills of the 2 of them and did not allow them to use them, which forcibly equalized the strength of the 2 of them. After hearing Gao Zhou's explanation, Su Tong felt relieved. After all, the gunslinger is a veteran with a strong title. With such a large amount of resources, he must have a killer super skill in his hand. Just like his own 9 Immortals Cauldron, once used, the opponent will either die or be disabled. This skill is too powerful and will inevitably increase the burden on the exhibition and even exceed the limits protected by the exhibition rules, so it is simply banned. Therefore, Yan Zhaoqi has a geographical advantage. Of course, even so, the fact that Yan Zhaoqi can tie with the gun god is enough to prove that his strength is indeed qualified to become a god. Boss, now that 3 alones have become 2 alones, I guess Deathstroke, Hanggu, and these 2 guys will be depressed for a while. Gao Zhou secretly laughed in the team channel. It was agreed that everyone would be tied for the top 3 positions, but Yan Zhaoqi silently made an exception and became a god. This is really sad. Stop talking nonsense and come over here to help me. I'm ready to open the business. Su Tong did not continue arguing with Gao Zhou, a talkative man, and signaled him and Chang Wogu to come to his shop immediately. He was ready to open the shop. Okay, Gao Zhou responded and immediately walked this way. At this time, Gu Zibai asked in the team channel, Boss, are we ready to open a store? But, what is the name of our store? As soon as he said this, Su Tong remembered that he had not named his shop yet. The name is a big deal. My main business is not selling medicines, so I can't ask for names like pharmacy, etc. But he didn't want to expose his main business too early. After all, their foundation was not stable, so he couldn't reveal too much information about their name. Think about it. Su Tong's brows moved, and he suddenly had an idea in his mind. The name is Lo Jinfang. In fact, the name he most wanted to name was Kimen. After all, he is the talker of the 7 sections at first. The 7 sects were ostracized by various sects. From the 3 sects down to the 9 level and 8 sections, the 7 sects had almost no place to stand. Even when the master died, not even a ringer class was willing to come. Therefore, it is inevitable that there will be an obsession in my heart, wanting to make the 7 sects famous and get back the reputation that should belong to the 7 sects. However, this idea is too dangerous. It will directly expose their identity and cause great disaster. I believe that after what happened to Yan Zhaoqi, the 6th Regiment will definitely be on alert, worried about the rise of the next force, and if it shows up slightly, it is probably the kind that would rather kill than let go. So Lo Jinfang is a good name. Le Jun, although he is very famous for alchemy, it is not just about alchemy. I borrowed the word Le Jun and will not sell elixirs in the future. When the main business slowly emerges, there is no need to change the name. Seeing that the name had been finalized, Gu Zibai immediately went to find someone to get the door plaque. After Gao Zhou, Gu Zibai, and others arrived, Su Tong waved his hand, opening.